see the final score, we track the revenue stream. Welcome to the show that treats the sports world like the multi-billion-dollar business it is. We dissect the ownership deals, the television right battles, the NIL impact, and the media figures driving the entire narrative. From Wall Street to the locker room, we follow the money and the people who control the message. Welcome to Press Row, the business of sports, right here on the Empty the Bench Network. Now, here's your hosts, Callan McClurg and Nick Morgasen. Hello again, my friends. Happy Wednesday, the final week of the month of March already. We're already here on another episode of Press Row, your gateway to all things sports business and sports media over the next 3 hours here on ETB across YouTube and Twitter. As always, he's Nick Morgasen. I'm Callan McClurg, joining you folks here today, as always, on a beautiful Wednesday, March 25th, 2026. Mr. Morgasen, already ending March. I can't believe we're already here. Great to see you as always, my friend. How are we doing today?
It feels like spring for a change here in New York because the weather's been up and down. Well, you've been dealing with up and down temperatures. It feels like 90
degrees in March out here in SoCal is not normal this time of the year.
Shit.
Yeah,
but
it's not normal.
Boy, but we did bring the heat, no pun intended, for today's show. We got quite a show planned. Obviously, 2 guests today. Jordan Robinson will join us at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. I can't confirm it because I was looking around, but she hosted a podcast and a radio show for Odyssey. We'll get into the WNBA CBA deal. WNBA and WNBPA CBA deal, which is officially signed. Finally. You mean we can finally get off this shitty topic and move on to other stuff that actually matters?
Oh, I think so.
And then in hour number 3, we will have Doug Feinberg, who was one of the Fab Four that was sitting outside. What hotel was it again?
The Langham Hotel in New York City.
So don't miss that. We get into that whole discussion. He was camping out the hotel. We got to hear some real insider knowledge that a lot of people are not going to want to miss. So make sure you tune into that for those 2 guests. Follow the show on social media, but make sure I don't forget that at Press Row ETB across all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and maybe TikTok, maybe.
Keyword maybe.
If they decide to cooperate. Follow the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network across all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at ETB Network. Follow our YouTube channel and subscribe, youtube.com/ETB Network. Help us out as we continue to grow those watch hours, as we get closer to 2,200 watch hours. And we need to get to 3,000 to 4,000 watch hours where we can really bring the heat to do way more things at our disposal. But this is going to be a great show. We're going to do a lot of WNBA. So if you're interested in what's going on currently with the new deal, you're in for a treat. Hopefully our people who were in for our live stream, which was a record number, we had like 750 people watching during that stream. So come in if you're really interested in the WNBA. Also, we're going to get into Cam Skattebo again being an idiot. And I really don't care what people at this network say. He's an idiot. I don't care. Also, Pittsburgh schools going to remote learning for the NFL draft coming up in about a month, actually. Also, NCAA versus DraftKings.
Why I oughta.
This is literally the dumbest lawsuit of eternity. I was going to say of all time, but eternity. Nevada bans Calci. Nevada bans Calci. Yes. And you'll understand why we're happy about that shortly. Also, Ken Rosenthal versus the World Baseball Classic, which
Go away.
Callan loves Ken Rosenthal, if you didn't know. What? Also, it is officially MLB opening day, and we're going to get into the frustrations of being on Netflix and not on local TV. You and I were having a discussion.
Yes, we did.
Hi, Christy. But we're going to get into that, and we're going to discuss it and how stupid Major League Baseball has become when it comes to the situation. The Yankees and the Mets are both not going to be local for the first time in, I would say, years.
Gotta be. So
we'll get into all that. So this if my Apple Watch would not talk to me while I'm trying to talk, but we have a big show, so we're not going to waste a ton of time here. So let's get into it. And the first topic right off the bat, Cam Skattebo is quoted on, I think the podcast is called Bringing the Juice.
Yes.
Was the name of the podcast. It's hosted by a guy who's from like Fox Sports Radio or something on their podcast network. And he goes on, and actually, I do have the audio left over because we used it on another show. So let's take a listen to Cam Skattebo, and we can all react, even though I've reacted a few times on this, but take a listen.
Kind of taking off, like, okay.
Run through my first place.
Yeah, exactly.
You think CTE is a real thing?
No. It's an excuse.
I think asthma's an excuse, too.
Yeah.
Is that a hot take?
No, that's a good
That's
take.
valid.
Yes, asthma's fake.
Is there anything worse than when you're in 4th grade and someone's huffing and puffing, you're just soft?
Yeah, just literally
be better.
breathe air.
Seriously?
So with that in mind, Nick, Giants running back Cam Skattebo has again ignited another firestorm across the sports media and medical worlds. In a recent podcast appearance, Skattebo claimed that both CTE and asthma are fake and are simply mental hurdles rather than actual physical conditions. The Giants and the NFL have already done their part to distance themselves from the comments made by the Giants' injured running back as the NFLPA faces stern questioning about player health education, especially for players coming into the league. But Nick, when a high-profile name publicly denies the existence of the league's biggest threat of CTE, does the league have a conduct detrimental to the league case here, or is this protected, albeit dangerous, personal opinion?
I don't care what the reason is. And we'll get into that he, again, dropped an apology tweet because, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. It was a tasteless joke. You're an asshole. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I vented about this quite a few times already, but you can't joke about CTE, okay? You can't do it. I don't care what the context is. It could be serious. It could be joking. I don't care. You can't say it.
I mean, Nick, if there's one thing, though, and I think you and Zan said this so perfectly on ETB Sports Audio on Wednesday, that in a roundabout way, Nick, this reminds me of the Disney movie Encanto, the song about we don't talk about Bruno around here. If you're the NFL, you don't talk about CTE as openly as you heard Cam Skattebo with that 30-second clip that we just played. Because, Nick, for the longest time, and I wrote this in, though, to the football show on Sunday, which I'm sure, probably knocked your socks off. Like, oh, my God, he's running to a NFL show. What's going on here? But, Nick,
your point was right, by the way.
Which goes to my point, though, Nick. You know how strongly I feel about the NFL denying CTE for as long as they did because it took away one of my favorite players of all time in Junior Seau, which went to my point, though, Nick. I would love for the NFL or the Giants, so they have the cojones, to schedule an in-person meeting before this season begins. I know they won't do it, but hear me out here. Cam Skattebo, Nick, much like when we got in trouble in class for talking out of turn or whatever it may have been when we were in elementary, middle, or high school, or maybe college, Cam Skattebo ought to be forced to do an apology to the faces of the families that have been affected by this illness and by this disease. That includes Duerson, Seau, McNair, as I wrote on Sunday. How, again, personal opinion's one thing, but how dare you, Nick? How the hell dare you, as a player in the NFL, go this far to call this disease where people have sued this league for years about the condition that their family members were a part of, Nick?
Agreed. And
I would think though too, Nick, I would not be one bit surprised though if there was a family member who probably like yourself reacted how you reacted, who would not love to slap the shit out of this guy right now for what he said.
tell me in what logic, because we'll get to his baseless apology in a minute, but I want to know what was going on in the head of Cam Skattebo when he was being asked this question by, I think the guy's name is Frank D'Elia. I think is the
Name
guy.
sounds familiar.
And what is going through his head when he's being asked, do you think CTE is real? Do you think asthma is real? And then for Frank to say, and Cam to say, oh, well, you remember back in fourth grade when they were huffing and puffing for air? Yeah, moron, because they can't breathe.
Precisely.
Cam, how would you feel if you couldn't breathe?
I mean, Nick, more importantly, I mean, like we said, though, Nick, the NFL, and I will say it, the NHL has been just as guilty of denying that CTE is a real thing because of where, the warrior mentality, the gladiator mentality is that, you just got to get back up, and I think the 30 for 30, Nick, about Junior Seau said it so right, though, after the 94 season with the Chargers, that day and age, Drew Brees confirmed this, Fred McCray confirmed this, Gary Plummer confirmed this, that in that time that there was no, there was no third party doctor sitting in the press box who could, wire down somehow to the training staff and say, hey, you might want to pull Junior out of the game for a play to see if he's okay. Rodney Harrison shared a story, Nick, where Junior Seau got a deep laceration underneath his chin. The doctor literally pulled out his equipment, stitched him back up with no anesthesia, and put him right back into the ball game.
Which you can't do today.
Regardless, though, Nick, this becomes, I think, strike three. Now, I won't go as far as you did, though, on the audio portion of the episode that drops later today in video form. I don't think the Giants will, I don't think the Giants are soft enough to cut him, as you were kind of saying, though. But I do think, though, Nick, that this is at least already strike three that he's already had when it comes to other layers of his story. The neon kick videos, of course, the WWE appearance at MSG. And now, Nick, this one right here, though, I think probably takes the cake. Because, Nick, in a way, this is what you don't do, though, if you're in the NFL, is openly talk about CTE because of how the league, Nick, had done it for so long, though. And like I said, though, if I'm a family member of the Seau family, Dave Duerson's family, Steve McNair's family, any player that I think Zan even mentioned a couple of other players that didn't come to mind, though, because the only name that really stood out, the only names that stood out for me for CTE was Duerson and Junior Seau, obviously.
Right.
Imagine, Nick, though, that you say that to their face. I mean, how do you think they're going to react there, Cam?
They're going to want to beat the crap out of you.
Exactly.
You know what? And Cam has a reputation already for saying
3 times already in his rookie year. 3 times. Neon, WWE, and now this crap right here.
And saying some pretty dumb crap. And Nick D and I went back and forth on ETB Lounge on Monday when I said it again. And in case people didn't hear what I said on Gridiron Gurus or eventually when you listen to Empty the Bench episode 310, which drops today, I said the Giants should cut Cam Skattebo. And, of course, people are going to be idiots in our mentions and say, well, someone's sensitive. It has nothing to do with sensitivity. It has to do with you just don't do it. You don't talk about CTE that way.
You don't.
It doesn't matter. And you know what? For all the idiot defenders out there who are going to say he's a dumb kid and he doesn't know any better, tell me how that makes any sense either.
I mean, yeah, we're all, in a way, we were all young, immature, dumb, and stupid at one point, but you will learn to eventually mind your P's and Q's. And I think, Nick, that was not to draw this comparison, but obviously that was a very big reason why a lot of baseball fans do not like Manny Machado, because of early mistakes he made in his life, or game in his career, I should say, when it came to, the whole brawl with Yolanda, or with Ventura from the Royals, or, him sliding into second base and breaking Pedroia's leg, stepping on Jesus Aguilar's foot with the Dodgers in the NLCS in 2017, roughly, or 2018. But at the end of the day, though, Nick, Machado has grown up, though, since all those mistakes. Now, I would hope that Cam Skattebo could do the same damn thing, Nick, but it feels like, though, somebody has to get into his ear, though. And honestly, Nick, I'm not surprised, though, if the NFL and the Giants both said, we're going to, we are distancing ourselves from these comments made because this was made by a player on his own accord and own time. I don't care. There has to be some kind of reprimand made, though, Nick, because, CTE, Nick, sadly, in NFL circles is a very much dirty word.
Well, forget that, because like Zanin had said that also, and I'm not saying he said anything wrong, but he's saying like that the NFL is trying to distance themselves. And I said, you're right, but that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is a major health problem that the NFL alumni, the NFLPA, had to fight to get benefits, to get money.
And they're still fighting this damn thing like almost 15 years later, if not longer.
And it's frustrating when you see a player who has potential to be a big star in the NFL, in New York, come out on a podcast. And here's the thing. I don't care if it was satirical. I don't care if it was a joke. It still sounds horrible.
It does.
You can't tell me that joking about CTE is logical. I dare somebody to go in our chats and say that talking about CTE as a joke makes sense. If you do, you're a sick and twisted individual.
Yeah, that'd be like laughing about someone committing suicide, for example, or something else going on. And to Christy's point, though, Nick, that we talked about on PR numerous months ago regarding Cam's appearance on WWE's Monday Night Raw from the Garden, it's still fighting as well, though, as, we all know it's scripted. But come on now, Nick. I wrote that on Sunday. I don't like the NFL for a lot of numerous reasons, but even I know that was not the best thing to do, though, was to be in on a scooter with your foot in a boot, though, having to fight J.D. McDonough, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio.
I just don't get it. And I'll read you the apology in a second, but like, do you think he did that apology, or do you think his PR person, who's been doing overtime with all the dumb shit that he's done, do you think that was him, or do you think that was the team or a PR person that came out and told him to do that?
I would assume it's either his own PR, Giants PR, NFL PR, maybe a teammate of his saying, hey, you should rethink these comments in some capacity, though I doubt it.
But you don't think that was him, right? Like,
Absolutely not.
You don't
Absolutely
think
not.
You don't think he had the intelligence level to say, oh, maybe I said something really incredibly stupid, and maybe I should say something, right?
And then to fall back, though, saying lapse of judgment, that's not no lapse of judgment, man. You literally said that on the record, though, and you even had a snicker about it. Like, give me a break. We're not that stupid.
Well, since people say, well, Nick, what's this apology you're talking about? Well, let's read the apology, since maybe some people didn't see it. So this was on his Twitter account the day that it dropped, that he put out an apology.
Oh, that's even worse.
It was weird because the news broke and then the tweet
having to
dropped.
Apologize the same day that the episode drops. Way to go, dude.
So he said, I recently did an interview and had a lapse in judgment, which resulted in me making a tasteless joke about CTE and asthma. Okay, hard stop.
Right there. You've already lost me, buddy.
A lapse in judgment? CTE is a lapse in judgment?
No.
Which resulted in me making a tasteless joke about CTE and asthma. A tasteless joke? Really?
Again, this goes to my point. There's certain things you don't joke about, Cam Skattebo, and one of them is the fact that your league has a problem with CTE.
CTE, domestic violence, sexual assault. I can go on and on and on, all the issues the NFL has. But it goes on to say, it was never my intention to downplay the seriousness of head injuries or asthma.
It sure sounded like it in that interview clip we played.
It sure sounded like you were kind of joking around and whatever. And I love Nick DiMartino, but he said to me during lounge that he was being satirical and didn't mean it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
D-Mart, we're fighting fire with fire here if we're going to call these comments what we called them on Monday, because again, there's just certain things you don't bring up and that you don't talk about in this capacity. And one of them is the fact that the NFL has been fighting these legal battles with all these families who've sued the league for at least the last decade plus, if not longer.
And then to say, I sincerely apologize to anyone that was offended by my remarks. And I assure you that I'll be more mindful and respectful going forward. And then the way he always finishes, much love.
I mean, is there really much love, though, when literally you feel the need to almost like crap upon the graves of Dave Duverson and Junior Seau and Steve McNair because they had CTE?
But to say, I sincerely apologize to anyone that was offended by my remarks, if you knew you were going to have to apologize for it, why did you say it?
The word starts with the letter V. I think it goes VIEWS and then CLICKS. Views and clicks. Final answer.
And unfortunately, and I hate saying this too, today's athletes are all about what you said, videos and clicks. They're no longer about, hey, let my play on the field do the talking. Instead
Which, Nick, in a way, let me go to this point because you brought this up, and I know I'm spoiling the moment of the episode dropping today for video format.
It's fine.
To use the Angel Reese comparison about Reese not caring about basketball, does Cam Skattebo not care about football?
I think he cares more about being a clown and for digital intake, I think. And
clown show.
No lies detected.
You're not wrong. I mean, it's like you said, and I've said many times. So Cam Skattebo had the neon situation. Yeah, lapse of judgment, my ass. Right.
Please, man.
The neon thing was ridiculous. His agent called him up when he was on.
And he answered it and then basically said, F off, I'm having fun.
The agent was trying to tell him that neon is not exactly a normal person.
And you know what the kicker was about, and again, I know that we talked about the WWE issues, when the week it happened. We came on there 2 days after that, episode aired from the Garden.
Yes.
Do you remember, Nick, his exact words about the blowback he was getting for being at the event at MSG?
Yeah, and he tried to tell people, I don't care what you think, is essentially what he said.
I'm trying to live my life and have fun.
Yeah. And I got
killed. Having fun, though, being front row, getting your 15 minutes of fame, getting your ass kicked by the Judgment Day while your foot is in a walking boot on a scooter.
And I got killed by people
I know you
here
did.
At this network because people were telling me I'm overreacting to the moment, saying that they were never going to let him get hurt. It doesn't matter. Just because the WWE is scripted, does that mean injuries don't happen?
Of course they do. They always do.
So what do you think the Giants would have said if he got hurt in the moment? Because they did put him in a physical confrontation. I mean, come on, man, use your head. If I'm the Giants, I'd say, hello, I'm out of here.
And my big thing is don't deflect about, Skattebo, doing that. And then, the Giants, the record is this. I don't give a crap. It's next man up when Skattebo was injured, trying to live his life, though. If you want to go even further, Callan doesn't watch the NFL. He's, how the fuck does he know about anything about the NFL? He shouldn't be talking about this crap because it affects the industry that Nick and I work in, people. There's a very, 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 very stark difference here.
I just don't get it. People say, he should be allowed to live his life. Okay, that's fine.
That went to my point, though, about if you're going to be going there, then you can't be sitting front row if you're injured.
And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't this during the season?
Yeah, still during the season. Though he was out for the year, but still, it's in the middle of the season.
I'll tell a quick story because I know we have a guest coming up in about 5 minutes or so. But I was taking a master's class at Hofstra where we would talk about all these different controversies in media. And it was the year that oh God, what's the name of the pitcher? The Marlins pitcher.
Jose Fernandez.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry because that name slipped my mind. But when
That was
Jose,
10 years ago, by the way. It was
yeah,
10 years ago.
when Jose Fernandez, unfortunately, was on a boat that capsized and died,
Yes.
and I kept saying and I was the only one making the argument saying he's an idiot, partially because he was in season, and no one's saying he can go have on an off day, he can have a good time. But why was he on drugs?
I mean, Nick, you can look at Jose Fernandez, the Miami Heat and the banana boat issue that happened, the Vikings and that like cabin party that broke out during the NFL season too, I want to say.
The rules are, for the most part, that you're supposed to stay within the team confines during the season. Isn't that usually the rule for most teams?
I mean, you would think so, right? Especially, another thing for, you brought it up though, Nick, but I'm not afraid to say it though. Fernando Tatis Jr. riding dirt bikes over the offseason and breaking his wrist.
And you don't know about this. When Tom and I were doing ETB way back when, there was a clip that went viral because I actually said that the Padres should have cut him for doing that. And he let me have it at the time, saying, you're nuts, you're crazy. And I said, that almost cost the Padres hundreds of millions of dollars. Can you imagine?
I know.
If he could never play again, right? And
well, I mean, shamelessly, the Padres didn't have him in all of 2022 and still got the NLCS. So
my point is, like, he was up for the major contract at the time, and they were going to void the contract. If you remember, there were talks about it.
Yes, there were.
Because doesn't that remember a little Aaron Boone situation with the Yankees? A little bit?
The pickup basketball issues, yes.
That's how A-Rod ended up a Yankee. People forget that.
I mean,
Aaron Boone was playing pickup basketball, and his season was over.
Jabba Chamberlain breaking his ankle on the trampoline with his kids in the middle of the playoffs.
I still think he was an idiot for doing that.
Trevor Bauer cutting his hand on his drone during the ALCS in 16.
There's so many instances. Kevin Brown punching the wall.
Yeah, well, Kevin Brown was an idiot, except for the 98 season with the Padres.
But I think that ended his season, if I'm not mistaken. I think. But,
maybe the year after and with the Dodgers, maybe.
But I just remember, like, these guys are in season. You got to be very careful, protecting your body. And who are you to go be part of a WWE scripted event when you're riding around on one of those one-legged...
the scooters, yes.
And you have the balls to put yourself, or the WWE and the Giants, because I'm sure the Giants had to agree to this too. So the Giants are not absolved.
Which I think, though, could go with some of the other people or some of the other hosts of the network's thoughts, though, about the Giants, having their own lapse of judgment. Still, though, if you're the player in that situation, why would you bother signing your life away knowing that this could have had more difficult consequences?
That's the point I'm trying to make. That I think the Giants need to do a better job of protecting this kid from himself.
No, it doesn't help, though, too, that Steve Tisch was in the Epstein files, too, to just add more to the malaise of this organization?
This organization is full of shit, if you ask me right now. They're rebuilding partially anyway, but at the same time, he's a star player. He's supposed to be their top guy, running back, and he's out doing WWE shit. He's out making dumb statements about CTE, which is a huge problem still to this day in the NFL. Come on, man. Like, what are we doing here?
That's what I'm saying, man.
The thing I'll say is, what do you have to gain by saying that? Can you think of any logical reasoning whatsoever that there's anything to gain by making that statement?
I mean, you know what you're gaining is just like another few million views, and that's it. Nick, what's my old, anecdote that I love to say sometimes on this network, or that I've said in the past? TikTok views and jersey sales don't win you games.
That's true. You're right. He is right. He does say that a lot, and I think you're right too.
It's great for the organization, but if it's not going to win you a game over whoever the hell's in your division or in the NFC, because I don't care about the NFL anymore, then that doesn't mean crap. If you're only going to be, a million views about this clip about CD being fake, your team's 0-16. Figure it out.
What's Herm Edwards' famous saying?
You play to win the game.
And I agree with it. You have to play to win. Okay? If you don't play to win and you're letting your off the field talk dominate the conversation, that means you're not good enough. Okay? And go ahead. Every NFL fan get in our mentions because I really don't care. The Giants should cut his ass and move on. Because there's no room in this sport for that type of stupidity saying CTE is fake. And you coming out and making your dopey apology and saying, oh, it was a senseless and tasteless joke. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think the Giner Seau family or Dave Duerson family is laughing about the remarks about CTE there, Mr. Skattebo. Better luck next time.
I'll give you one more. Do you know what Cam Skattebo's weird ritual was before a game?
No.
It was that he would bang his head against a brick wall before a game.
Really smart there, buddy. Really smart.
All right. So our first guest into the room, you want to do a little intro here?
Yes. So the WNBA finally has figured out a new CBA. They have worked through, again, as we have somewhat talked about, though, over 100 hours, 8+ days of work. But we have finally, though, seen the new deal signed. We're still waiting for some more numbers to come out, though. But we have one of the best in the business, though, Nick, to talk all things about the WNBA, March Madness, and, of course, the new CBA deal. A good friend of yours truly and a friend of the program, the one, the only, Jordan Robinson joins us this morning here on ETB/early afternoon. Jordan, great to see you. It's been quite a while for us to get back linked up here. But as always, though, Jordan, thanks for the time today to talk all things women's hoops. And more importantly, congrats on the new book coming out, by the way, too. How you doing today?
Thank you so much. It's so excited to see you. It has been forever, it feels like. But thank you for having me on. A lot to talk about.
So I guess we'll get underway right with the CBA. So what were your original thoughts of seeing the CBA or historic deal that they're talking about with the CBA?
Joy. That was my first emotion. Joy because we get a WNBA season, first of all. I was getting a little nervous, but I was willing to be okay with not having a WNBA season if that meant the players weren't getting what they deserved. And now as the numbers keep overflowing and the dollar signs and the amounts that we're seeing, I couldn't be more proud of these players that they held firm and they stuck to what they believed in, and they deserve this. So joy all around.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan, I couldn't agree more, obviously, with where we've gone, because Nick and I had really covered this whole story from the night that Nafisa Collier called out the commissioner's office after the injury she sustained against the Mercury in the league league conference final, all the way along the lines of the finals. Nick and I talked about how the fan reaction to Kathy in real time after the Aces won the championship, regarding ESPN trying to blur out people flipping off the commissioner and turning down the crowd mics and stuff. Jordan, your overall thoughts, I guess, though, about how this whole thing played out, because, I know we know it got very ugly a couple times. And, as the process goes on, we're led to believe about negotiating tactics where, one side says this, one side says that, though. But Jordan, how do you probably look back, though, at the last several months about the framework being, laid out, all the barbs being exchanged, though, but finally that they got something done finally within the last week?
Yeah, this was a journey, right? This was a marathon of getting here. And I know this is me from the outside. I've not been in those negotiation rooms. I know that these players and on the league side, they have been going back and forth. But this has been a 17-month long battle. We have to remember they opted out in October 2024. So this has been strategic by the players union to continue to show momentum and show a united front throughout the WNBA WNBA season, being able to speak on different things, the executive committee using times appropriately to, to say things, to make sure it was on top of people's minds, that they were always thinking about this CBA and this deal, even while the season was going on. So with everything that happened with Nafisa, calling out the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, quoting her on things that they had said in private, it was wild. I remember waking up to that news and being like, oh, it's on. It was on before, but now it is really on. And all of those conversations that were happening in private that we weren't privy to, now we were all thrusted into it. And they made it very public, which I think was on purpose. It was to make sure that people continued to understand that this was a real thing. Now, to your point about what it kind of turned into, it did get ugly. And what it constantly told me was that this is a labor negotiation. Yes, we are fans of a league, but it was very much a employee and an employer going at what they felt was right and fair. And I have been a part of a unionizing within my job. Like, it's not pretty. It gets ugly, and money is involved, and it gets weird and awkward and all of those things. And I think what it got to in the later days was like, oh yeah, they're writing their paychecks. Like, they are demanding more money and they deserve that. It's not just this, yay, hurrah, we're fans, we can't wait to see them on the court. They have a livelihood that they needed to protect, and that's what they went out and got. And so to be able to see what they were able to settle on and sign for is incredible. So super proud of them.
So one thing that stood out was Natasha Cloud and her statement.
Mhm.
And what was surprising to Callan and I was the NDAs. When we heard her talking about the NDAs and seeing that whole situation that she couldn't really talk, and talking about like the pie and the percentage. What did you make of her revealing about the NDAs and talking about that like publicly that way?
I love Natasha Cloud. I know her well. I've worked with her so many times, and she is going to stay true to herself. I'll just say that. She is always going to be Tosh. And one thing that I think a lot of people who may be on the outside kind of looking in, this is very common for WNBA players. They are not going to sit down and twiddle their thumbs and make sure that they are picture perfect for forward facing things. The league has always been progressive, outspoken. We can go back throughout history, which, thank you, Callan, you can plug Court Queens, my book. We have all of those moments throughout history where WNBA players were able to flip Senate seats. They were able to, stand tall and say, we're not going to play a game until there's actual movement happening on a Black Lives Matter front. We're going to kneel for the national anthem. WNBA players did that before Colin Kaepernick did it. So this idea that WNBA players are outspoken, Natasha Cloud fits right into that box. And she was just making it known that we're not just going to stay silent, and we're not going to let the league kind of be able to paint the picture that they want to keep painting. I'm going to make sure to keep it real so you guys know exactly where we're coming from. And I always respect her for that.
Yeah, and we appreciate what Cloud said. We, shared a TikTok of her from her car talking about, we wanted this. The league wanted us to have this. And then she, said, but we had to sign an NDA just so everyone knows out there. Nick and I were floored. Like, I've never heard a league ever say that you got to sign your life away with an NDA to not talk about things. But Jordan, as you had mentioned, though, we see the book behind you, by the way. The recent book that you had just written, though, called Queens of Court Queens, which just came out last Tuesday, covers everything, going all the way back into the archives into the late 1890s to the modern day league. Jordan, why was it important, though, for you and your fellow writer, though, to highlight forgotten heroes who, played the game at a high level back then to where we're at now here in 2026, getting ready for the 30th year of the WNBA launching?
Yeah, so Court Queens is about that history, because I just love how it came at a perfect moment. I swear we didn't plan it. We weren't in cahoots with the WNBPA saying, make sure to wait and sign the deal when Court Queens comes out. But it planned out so perfectly, because this is such a historic CBA and the moment, and going into the 30th anniversary of a WNBA, which is the longest women's professional sports league out there. And we wanted to make sure that everybody knew that the WNBA didn't just start a couple years ago. Like, maybe your fandom started then, but there have been women that laid the groundwork to get to where we are today, to be able to have a monumental CBA. There needed to be leagues that started and failed. And we talked about that over and over, about these dreams and the ambitions of these women to be able to say, we want, benefits. We want to have 6 figures. And what a dream it was to have. And it only lasted a couple years. So this excitement that is around the WNBA and women's basketball has been around, like you said, since the 1890s. And we wanted to just spotlight that and the women through these photos and through essays in this very overwhelming love letter to women's basketball that is Court Queens.
I mean, getting into more, you brought up like the 30th anniversary, and that's a big deal, and we're sure we're going to have it. I'm curious your thoughts on Kathy Engelbert, because Callan and I have talked a ton about Kathy Engelbert. A lot of, anger towards Kathy Engelbert and the way she's run the league, how she handled herself in the negotiations. From her perspective, how do you think she did in these negotiations, and do you think that it was not handled properly from her point of view?
Oh, interesting. Well, I definitely cannot speak for the commissioner of the WNBA, but from my side and from, just from covering the league and when Kathy came on board in 2019, everyone was really excited because the WNBA hadn't had a commissioner before. Like, it felt so much like the younger sister of the NBA, and the commissioner gave it validity. It made it feel real and important. And we've had presidents before, or just people in power, but a commissioner felt very legit. And for her, first thing to do was the Wubble season, which I feel like she handled very well. And the WNBA was the first, professional league to really get started during COVID. She navigated that super well. And I think she got a lot of praise for that. But throughout the years, it had kind of, when you sign up for a commissioner role, you get to be praised for the bubble, but you also get to be the person that everyone points the fingers at when everything goes wrong. And things were that's the job. That is what you sign up for. And so right now, when everyone is chanting, pay the players, and booing the commissioner, which we know happens in the NFL all the time, and that is something that you do to commissioners, you boo them. It was kind of like, we're a real league now. Like, yes, we get to boo our commissioner. It's not all rah-rah and celebratory all the time in the WNBA. So that whole thing of being with the good and the bad, that's something that you have to roll with in this role. But after everything that went down with Nafisa, I personally saw her vanish. I saw very less statements from her. We're not getting direct quotes from her. They were like, okay, Kathy, let's fall back a little bit because it's hot. The block is hot right now. Let's fall back. So I'm predicting that we see a little bit more of that. I would love, and a couple people have pointed this out, Monica McNutt told me this on my podcast, and I love this idea of like a co-commissioner role where there is someone who is a business side, and maybe that's Kathy, but there is a player first person, maybe a former player, and you are both commissioner and you are both working together to meet the needs. Because right now, that's what Nafisa was saying. Kathy, you don't understand our player experience. You don't talk to us like people. You don't talk to us like players. You are all about the business. And sometimes that can make us feel like you don't care about us. So if you can't do both, which is a lot, then you need to maybe split that role with someone. And I think Nneka would be incredible once she retires, because how she has ran this presidency of the Players Union, she kills it. So I love that idea. I would vote to go that route in the future.
That would be something. I think, Christy Wilson, one of our viewers, even says a co-commissioner would be a pretty good idea. So Monica McNutt with maybe something for the next CBA 7 years down the road in come 2034, 2035. Again, folks, Jordan Robinson joining us here today on Press Row on this Wednesday. Jordan, how about let's get into the nitty gritty a little bit, though, about the Women's Hoop Show. It's on Odyssey stations around the country. I think I may have told you I woke up one morning, heard it down here on KWFN 97.3 The Fan, and I was like jumping for joy, being able to hear you again and stuff of that caliber. How has that been, though, for you going into doing a podcast role, but also, I mean, you got Cheryl Swoops as your co-host. Like, come on now. This is pretty amazing.
It is amazing. My life professionally is such a pinch me moment every single day that I get to do this. And to be able to, I recorded with Cheryl yesterday and she was just, raving about the book because I sent her a copy and I'm like, yeah, you're in it. Like, you are so much a part of women's basketball history. So thank you for loving it. And she's like, yeah, it just brought back so many memories of me breaking records. I'm like, I love that for you. So it's such a pinch me moment to be able to record with her, but also just going into something that I feel like the women's basketball fans really desired is a podcast in a place where, their fandom can grow beyond just the games. And a lot of the time, if you were a women's basketball fan, the game would start and end, and then you would just have nothing. You wouldn't have a post-game show. You wouldn't have a pre-game show. Everybody would go to Twitter at the time and talk about it. But those conversations and the storylines deserve to be reverberated way after the horn sound. So that's what I try to do on the Women's Hoop Show. I try to tie in history as well because I just love history so much with Hoop Roots. That's like a section of the show. And having a variety of co-hosts, Autumn Johnson, Kendra Andrews from ESPN, and we just get into it and we just yap. And it has been so much fun to do.
So I want to go back to draft night. Callan and I talk about this story all the time where Kathy came up to the stand and said basically that Unrivaled or Project B or any of these other leagues are not competition to the WNBA. What are your thoughts on that statement? And does this deal stop that competition? Does it fuel it? What do you think about those other leagues compared to the W?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So when I heard Kathy say that at the time, I laughed because it was very much
did.
like
I wanted to fall out of my chair.
It was very funny, but also smart because she was like, yeah, we're not really worried about sheep. We're a lion. It was very much that. Like, you have your little league where it's 3-on-3 and it's just one location and it's so limited players. And we have a national basketball league that is over almost 200 players, and we have so much more logistics. And so I think it was necessary to kind of set the difference because it is different. It is a lot bigger, but I think it was very threatened. Like, I felt like she had to put her guard up. She had to put her fists up because okay, everybody keeps coming for talking and comparing Unrivaled to us. We are on a different level. And I just thought that was really funny. But what Unrivaled has done is very much why we are having these CBA conversations. And I think it would be crazy to think that they are not linked. When we see so many people, thousands of people coming to Philadelphia, selling out Barclays in a couple weeks to come see these players, pay 3-on-3 basketball, a quick game, by the way, and they still want to just get a taste of the players and be able to be there in person. Yeah, you have to say that Nafisa's coming with those numbers and saying, we made $2 million in one day. You can't tell me you guys aren't making money. Like, that has to go hand in hand. And we've seen that throughout history. The ABL was one of those leagues that started at the exact same time as the WNBA. It was player focused. It was player led. The WNBA players were able to, in that CBA negotiation in 1999, they could say, hey, the ABL players are coming over here. They're expecting a lot more money. We want that money too. Like, they were getting $100,000. We're only getting $50,000. Like, can we get what they're getting? That is very much history repeating itself. And it's okay because we need each other to be able to balance it all out. Now to your question about, do I think that's going to impact it? Reading through the latest summary of the CBA terms, them kind of moving up that day when they have to return to training camp to April 15th. We know that Project B is going into April. I don't think they had an end date yet. But that's something to keep in mind. I had a huge issue with the WNBA saying that you're going to be penalized with prioritization if you don't come in time, but you're not paying them. You're saying, hey, we're your side hustle, but don't come late from your main job. Now they're getting paid more, and I appreciate that. So I'm not upset with them saying, okay, you have to come report to training camp at this time, and maybe you have to leave a couple dollars on the table, but we're paying you more for that. And so I feel like there's a balance there that I appreciate.
Jordan, the other big thing that Nick and I had talked about that we were also floored about was, I think in May, right around when the season began, the reports began to kind of leak to the surface about the Connecticut Sun's future in Unkinsville, Connecticut, which, we had seen them schedule games at the Garden in Boston. There were reports of the Celtics ownership group wanting to buy the franchise, move them into into Boston after the 2 games they had there. And there was, and then much like, with the CBA negotiations, a lot of back and forth with Kathy saying, hey, there was never really a bid put out. We weren't looking at this market. Oh, so we're going to take the team out of Connecticut and move them down to Houston to bring back the Comets. But also with that, though, Jordan, we've got Portland this season. We've got Toronto coming this season. We've got Cleveland, Detroit, Philadelphia. Maybe your hometown's coming back sometime in 5 years. Who really knows, though, in Sacramento at Golden One. But that it's great, though, that we're seeing new markets or old markets come back after being dormant for so long, though. But, Jordan, did the WNBA maybe mishandle this whole thing with the Suns' future by basically saying we're going to, private team out of Connecticut and put them in Houston, kind of against, the wishes of what that fan base might want?
This whole situation, you guys, has been so weird. Like,
I could not agree more.
None of us can figure out what is going on. Like, it has been such a head scratcher of why this is even such a big deal, why the WNBA is so involved and not wanting it to go to Boston. It was a former president, I believe, of the Boston Celtics wanting to bring it on to Boston, but then really wanting it to go to Houston with the ownership there, but then also offering to pay $250 million from the league to own it so that they can put it wherever they want. So many question marks. And I just keep coming back to, I had Fran Harris on my podcast early last year. I don't even know what day it is, but sometime in a year ago. And Fran Harris is a former WNBA player, WNBA champion. She has been trying to build an ownership group to bring a WNBA team to Austin. And she has worked years, and she keeps saying that the league is passing on private owned people to be in bed with the NBA, to be able to have an NBA ownership group. That feels more legitimate in what it seems like to Kathy and the league. Being able to partner with NBA teams and that infrastructure already in place is something that we have seen over and over again. When you look at the Valkyries and their success in year one, it is unprecedented. It's never been done before. And I don't think that's an accident, because they have the Warriors already there. They have ownership that is already bought in, and we can see that. It's not something, I'm not saying that people in a private group aren't bought in. They totally are, but we don't have any receipts. Like, we can't already see that the fans are going to be there. But Golden State Warriors, we've seen that. Detroit Shock, we've seen that before. Cleveland, all of these are already NBA teams. And we saw that with even a former Boston Celtics. She's like, ooh, former? But if the current Boston Celtics team wants it, maybe. Like, it's been so obvious. Like, okay, you want that NBA title and that under that umbrella because it feels like it's so synonymous with success. I don't know if that's true. I feel like the Connecticut Sun have proven themselves that they have been able to, they started in Orlando, and being able to go to Connecticut and build that fan base. I also feel really bad for that fan base. If you uproot them and have to move them to Houston, of course we want the Comets back, but not at the Connecticut Sun fans' expense.
I mean, it's one of those weird things, kind of like what happened with Seattle and OKC in the NBA, and now they're talking about coming back to Seattle. I guess the place I want to take this next thought is the perception issue sometimes with people talking about the WNBA revenue. Callan and I have discussed this a ton. about people who are saying, oh, well, the WNBA must be in the red and whatever. And some people just who don't watch the WNBA on a daily basis don't understand that it's a private league. They don't have to share their numbers. What do you say to those people who try to say, oh, the WNBA is not making money when we clearly don't know the full answer to that number?
I say, I said this on my show the other week when the news broke that the league did make a profit last year and that there was a revenue kick from 2025 season. And I said, what a sad day for all the people that keep saying that the WNBA doesn't make money. Now we have proof. We've always known. We felt it in our bones, but now we have proof. And that was not tied to revenue share. I want to add that was from the previous CBA where you had to hit a certain threshold of revenue to get a kickback. And that is exactly what happened. And all those players got a kickback because they reached that revenue number. And how amazing that came out during this time. And really, I bet reignited the players to say, yeah, we're definitely holding firm because we know that we're making money for this league and for everybody turning out. So, I mean, what do you say to ill-informed trolls? I think the WNBA fans and myself and everyone has just been having to take it because it just comes with it, covering women's sports for some reason. But I want to say that the WNBA is in year 30 and the NBA was still not making a profit when they were 30 years old. So you have to, the comparison to an NBA league that is almost 80 years in is insane. Like, that's not a fair comparison to a league with no other precedent, by the way. Like I said, other women's professional leagues started and failed. The WNBA is in uncharted waters and 30 years in as a women's pro league in America. So, yeah,
and then also 1.4 million supermax, 300,000 minimum now. It's incredible what deal they got historically, just looking at the league. When you look at those numbers, does it just make you smile to see that they're finally making the proper six-figure money that they should be making now?
Absolutely. These players deserve to be millionaires. And we know that there are a lot of them that are, but from off-court endeavors because they are signed to Nike, because they have shoe deals, because they're in your commercial. But now it's because of the job that they're actually doing. And all of those things can still remain extra. I think that they deserve it more than anyone else. And no, it's not multi-million-dollar contracts yet, but it is such a great point to be in history and everything that they've done. So yes, it makes me smile ear to ear for sure.
Again, folks, Jordan Robinson joining us today here on Press Row on this Wednesday afternoon across the West Coast and East Coast. Obviously, Jordan, we're in the middle of March Madness. I don't think the game is in a better place right now, but I don't think people got the whole old friend of the program mentioned earlier. But of course, you and I know each other. We've known each other for over a decade when you were here at PLNU, Point Loma Nazarene, playing women's hoops for 4 years. Jordan, obviously, I think back a lot to the first year I got there and I began to do games for you guys, calling play-by-play during my time at the university. And I always think back to March Madness because of the opening year I was there. You guys go all the way to Anchorage, Alaska. You beat the number one ranked team in Division II women's basketball, on their home floor. It's freezing cold and whatnot. But Jordan, for those though who don't quite maybe get behind March Madness though, or that, they watch though, but what's the experience like though, as a player being a part of March Madness though, even at the D2 level, as you guys were though, going all the way to Anchorage from San Diego?
Oh man, Callan, what a great memory to come back on. I had just talked about this the other day because I will never forget that game. I mean, I barely played. I was definitely a bench warmer, but the excitement of being in Alaska and the whole town coming to that game, and like the buildings were shut down. We got back to our hotel room after that night and everyone was like, we were there. We shut down. We were everything was closed because we wanted to see this game. And to be able to come in as the underdog, shock a whole town, a whole state, it felt like we were flying. But then we played the very next day and lost to someone in our conference. So it's so hard to just like ride that emotional high that I know these players in current March Madness are feeling. I always am impressed when someone can have a buzzer beater or have a monumental comeback and then come back a couple days and play steady. That is really, really hard to do. So much respect. But it was so much fun as a player to celebrate, jump up and down, be so proud of my teammates, and be able to make history in that way. It was incredible. So I'll never forget it. That was a long time ago, and I still remember it.
It's rent-free for me. It's rent-free.
Yes.
So I guess getting more into the tournament, seeing historical dominance, UCLA, South Carolina right now, just seeing how the tournament is. You predicted an all-chalk Final Four also.
I did, yes.
Just looking at this, is this a sign of elite teams pulling away, or is the Cinderella era of women's hoops just getting started for the tournament?
There are never really Cinderellas in women's basketball. And we have like our first one this year in Virginia. And I am so excited. Virginia making it this far for the first time since 2000. They are the first team to make it from the first four, the play-in, to the Sweet 16 in women's hoops. That is just never done. We've seen over these past couple days the number one seeds, the top seeds just demolish their competition. When you get into conference play, the conferences are just different. The levels are different, and you start to see the separation in the tournament. But to have a team like Virginia just hanging around, being that annoying gnat, 2 overtime games, one game went into double overtime to be able to pull the upset over Iowa, which was a 2 seed, just incredible. So now I'm rooting for the upset. I'm like, let's go, Virginia. They're going against a TCU in the Sweet 16, which just came off of an overtime game themselves. Olivia Miles is the best point guard in the WNBA draft upcoming, but they could get them. Like, they are a vulnerable team. So that makes it even more exciting. Now, if they would have made this whole run and then they would have had to play UConn, it was like, okay, this is over. You're done. But like, they could beat a TCU, and that makes it even more exciting. But this era of dominance, it's funny to kind of be back there because we were there for so long with UConn, winning undefeated seasons, and just like it was UConn, and no one really cared about the women's bracket because you just wrote UConn and you won. Now there is a little more parity. I want to see it go chalk because I mean, there could be some exciting things happen. UConn does look unbeatable again, and they could go back to back. But like UCLA versus Texas, again, I want to see that. I want to see South Carolina get some revenge on UConn for blowing them out in the championship game last year. I want to see what LSU does in the mix, what Michigan has to say. So there is a notion that women's basketball has been able to have some more parity because there is some upsets happening. There are some superstars scattered throughout and not just all the superstars on UConn's team. So I think that makes it a lot more fun. It's been so much fun to enjoy.
Yeah, that made me think of the time when UConn was on their dominance of, all these national writers saying, oh my goodness, they're so bad for the game of women's basketball, as you kind of said, though. UConn. It's like, no, I mean, I think we're past that now, because sadly, portal, NIL is now a thing. And that's kind of why I think, the UConn, iron fist of ruling women's basketball, was, gone for over a decade until just this past year when they finally got back on top, though. But with South Carolina, LSU, Iowa's rise, USC's rise, with Juju Watkins, though she's been out for the past, year plus with the injury. But I think, though, parity now becoming, to the forefront of women's basketball is only going to get more eyeballs on the product. Jordan, before we let you go, though, where can people find you on the web? Where can they find the podcast? But also, where can they buy the book?
Yes, so many things. You can find me on Instagram at Jordan Liggins or on TikTok Hey Jordan Robinson. You can find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube, The Women's Hoop Show. And then you can get the book, Court Queens, a celebration of the history of women's basketball from the 1890s to today. You can find that on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, wherever you get your books, or request it from your local bookstore, which a lot of people have been doing. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Jordan, I enjoy the show. I've actually watched it quite a bit over the last couple months, and I enjoy the show.
Hey,
So,
thank you.
But you and Cheryl are great together too. So thank you. We enjoyed having you, and hopefully we can have you again sometime.
Yes, thanks so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
We'll actually talk basketball next time.
Okay, we'll see you.
See you, Jordan. Thank you again. All right,
Okay.
Jordan Robinson from Odyssey, and now a best-selling author. Can't believe I'm saying that, but that's so cool.
Yeah, so that was great. She was incredible. Now I got to get the show back on track. But just like it was interesting, just kind of hearing the takeaways and of the WNBA, CBA, and just historically how it changed everything.
It changed everything. It's amazing.
Well, hour 2 of the show has officially gotten underway. If you missed that interview, by the way, it will be up separately on our YouTube channel. So make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Subscribe, turn on the notification bell when things drop, and you should see that interview separately. Or you can go back and watch all 3 hours of this show when the show ends and see that interview. Also, don't forget, coming up in beginning of hour number 3, Doug Feinberg, national women's basketball writer for the AP, is going to join us at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. So don't miss that as well. All right.
We're going to go back to the latter part of hour 1, Nick, though, to this story. The Pittsburgh Public School District will close for operation for 3 days and go to remote learning due to the upcoming NFL draft. Pittsburgh is expected to see, or is expecting a logistical lockdown that bus routes and safe passageways for students to get to school were deemed impossible to maintain over the course of the 3 days. Nick, has the NFL draft finally officially outgrown its welcome in mid-sized cities if the event requires a total shutdown of a city's local education system?
Actually, hold that thought.
Oh, boy.
This actually has to do with the WNBA, just as we got done talking about it. So news breaking from FOS and from CBS Sports. CBS Sports is proud to announce a new long-term agreement with the WNBA that will feature 20 regular season games on CBS and Paramount Plus this season.
Nice.
So just add that to Versant with USA Network, Amazon Prime. So you're going to see all this start to trickle out.
Now that there's a new deal in place, all the other details that have been underneath wraps for the last several months will finally come out of the woodwork.
But anyway, so excuse me. This is an interesting story that Pittsburgh schools are going to be completely remote for the during the 3 days of the NFL draft. Now, even though you don't watch, you know that the draft is pandemonium. It's craziness every time.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when it was in Detroit a couple of years ago, didn't it bring like 700,000 people to downtown Detroit?
I think it was closer to 1 million, if I'm not mistaken. But
so then that's a good reason, though, to maybe do this just for the safety of everybody out there because of how many people will travel to Pittsburgh for the event.
I mean, I'm going to look it up right now.
It makes total sense.
I'm going to look it up to see how many people made the trip for the NFL draft in Detroit. I don't know if that exact number is going to be out there, but let's see what we find out. Oh, you were right. Okay, you were a little bit off, but 775,000 fans.
Holy smokes.
And you have to remember, now, I don't know if this was done at Ford Field or not, but
I feel like it may have been I think it was in downtown somewhere. I don't recall them using Ford Field, but I might be wrong, though.
So day one was a record. 275,000 people attended the first round on that Thursday.
Wow.
Which is incredible, considering, like, it's not football games. It's not
It's not a game. It's not the Super Bowl. It's not a play. It's not the playoffs or preseason. It's simply, Nick, just the NFL as a whole.
Right. And it says crowds were so large on multiple occasions that officials had to temporarily pause entry into the main draft footprint at Hart Plaza and Campus Matrius Park. So
they used two. It sounds like they used two outdoor public park spaces to host the event.
So it wasn't Ford Field, I guess.
No.
But I thought they used the NFL stadium to do the draft.
They may have. I mean, there was the 1 year or two where I think the draft was in Vegas, and they literally shipped the draftees over the Bellagio fountains on like giant poker chips to the stage.
I mean, that's cool and all, but it just sounds like a big waste of money, partially. But
it is Vegas, though. It's all about showmanship.
No, I agree. But I did read for this year that it is going to be an Acrisure Stadium.
Okay.
Which means they're not putting 275,000 people in there.
No, wasn't there also a place that I think I mentioned last night during our show planning debrief that they're using another public park space, like a separate event, I want to say?
And that's what I think they're talking about here. They had Hart Plaza and Campus Demetrius Park. For demographics, fans from all 50 states and more than 20 countries attended last time.
Just for the draft.
Just for the draft. The event also brought in almost 214 million to the Detroit region,
which is huge.
Because you have to remember, like, even though the NFL takes its cut, why do you think
the city is still getting a pretty penny, though, which is huge?
Why do you think the cities are desperate to host the draft?
Because it's literally a 3-day shot in the arm for economic reasons.
Same thing that teams want to host the Super Bowl. Same reason that they want to host any special event.
All-star games.
Right. So the draft is like free money I shouldn't say to some. It is free money to anyone that hosts the draft.
Did you imagine, Nick, by the way, if the NFL draft was held like the week of spring break in Pittsburgh? Like how many more people may have shown up for the event?
But how many people are going to Pittsburgh for spring break?
You never know. I mean, if you're that big of an NFL fan and you want to go to the draft and it's around spring break, I don't see why you wouldn't be going.
No, I get that, but I'm saying I don't know if you would ever get a spring break collision going on there.
I mean, just the simple fact, though, that for 3 days there's no in-person learning, though, just kind of tells you the weight of the event and how the NFL has, grown their footprint to where it is now. Which, again, I fully respect. I just don't like the actual product on the field.
Well, I don't even know if it's that you don't like the product on the field. You just don't like the public persona of the former Chargers franchise. It's not necessarily that you don't like the game. No. What?
Per Adam Schefter, the NFL regular season will kick off Wednesday the 9th at 5:20 p.m. Pacific time, 8:20 Eastern in Seattle, with the Seahawks playing, while the Niners and Rams will play in Melbourne the following day.
Yeah, so I have that official information actually from the NFL. So Niners, Rams, week 1 at the Melbourne Cricket Ground.
Which I believe hosted Dodgers Diamondbacks during the Australia series about a decade ago, if not longer.
God, that doesn't even feel like 10 years ago. But it'll be Thursday, September 10th here in the States. It'll be Friday, September 11th in Australia.
The time change.
Was it like 8-9 hours or something?
Oh, it's like 18 hours between here and the West Coast.
Oh, God. Oh, it must be more near you.
It's way more out here.
But yeah, so that was made official.
18-hour time change between San Diego and Sydney, Australia.
So I laugh. Let's see. Chrissy says, I laugh even though I think the NFL kicking off on a Wednesday is weird. Well, yeah, because we've never had. Well, the only time we had Wednesday games was during COVID.
Right.
When they had to move games around due to positive COVID cases.
Positive tests, yeah.
But, I mean, you're right. That is odd because how often do you hear, the NFL is officially starting on a Wednesday? Now, I'm assuming this is going to be a YouTube game. I'm just going to say that probably now.
Yeah, didn't we, in a way, all but confirm that a couple of shows ago that all the international games might be just packaged on the YouTube or Netflix or one of the two?
So I'm opening up the information. Let's see what they have. Oh, this is just all the hospitality information.
How
Wow,
about the hospitality?
they're opening up the ticket sales on April 8th.
For Seattle or for Melbourne?
No, for this game, the Melbourne game.
I guess that makes sense, though, Nick, especially as we said, though, I think last week about the ongoing issues, though, with these international games that fans, who might be a Seahawk fan or a Niner fan or a Ram fan, you need to know months and months in advance, though, if your team's going to be playing overseas, Nick, because as I think I may have said, though, again, here in San Diego, because you don't
Season
have
tickets.
Well, yeah, but also because, people that, again, like my soccer fan base here with SDFC, friends of mine went down to Mexico to watch them play Toluca last Wednesday. You need to know in advance if they're going to be, playing, a game down south of the border so you can make those accommodations where, again, I think the Chargers were getting sued by their fan base, and I think they sued the NFL for how late it came out Chargers Chiefs Sao Paulo, Brazil this past season. So I'm not surprised that they probably learned from that mistake, though, that we better, open up season seat sales way, earlier than last season. Makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. By the way, so Annie Costabel just put out a very interesting tweet about 13 minutes ago.
Oh, no.
So she asked, Adam Silver, when asked if Kathy Engelbert will remain the commissioner beyond 2026. Quote, I haven't had those discussions yet with the WNBA board. I would only say Kathy has done a fantastic job since she's come to the WNBA. We obviously see the results, but I haven't had those discussions recently with Kathy, even in the terms of her future plans and how long she wants to do this. She had a storied career before she came to the WNBA and the CEO of Dilotti. The results speak for themselves, and I'm very happy, and I know ownership is very happy with where things stand currently. I don't really.
I think right now that should be the last of Commissioner Silver's concerns right now. Worry about the Sonics and the Vegas Jokers right now, and stop finding teams for tanking. How about that?
Who is even asking that?
No idea.
That's a weird question to ask right after the CBA being signed.
Timing is a little weird.
Oh my God. I don't know how to feel about that.
Nick, from one version of football to the other version of football, more details have come out, Nick, about Major League Soccer's upcoming new calendar flip for the upcoming 2027 season to better align themselves with the European fall to spring calendar and better chances to get players via the transfer market. The league will be playing a condensed high-stakes tournament-style season in early 2027 before officially launching the new permanent schedule in August of next year. Nick, does switching from the fall to spring to a fall spring model help Major League Soccer better compete in the global transfer market for players, or will the cold weather markets like Toronto, Chicago, New York, and Minneapolis see a massive dip in attendance during the winter months when the season is just getting started?
Okay, so you and I had started discussing this over the last couple of days. Someone's going to get screwed one way or the other when it comes to the weather. It doesn't matter if you do it early in the season. It doesn't matter if you do it later in the year for the season, because the East Coast is going to get screwed if you go one place. The West Coast is going to get screwed another place. So it doesn't really matter where you put the season. I had said to you that if they would just put roofs on these soccer arenas, you could play all year round for all you care.
And I think the only two dome stadiums in MLS right now is Vancouver and Atlanta, but Vancouver's having their own problems right now with trying to keep the Whitecaps in town.
So that's the obvious answer. If you want to move the season based on your liking, obviously they're not going to put roofs on these soccer arenas. So you basically have to bite the bullet and say which weather is worse, the East Coast or the West Coast. And most times that's going to be the East Coast is the worst of the weather, usually, because between the snow and the rain and all that stuff, because you could talk from experience, it's much warmer out on the West Coast than it is here on the East Coast, unfortunately.
78 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even looked today. I mean, I could look really fast to see what the
Look, I'll say this much. I understand what MLS is trying to do when it comes to the global transfer windows. Now, for those who don't know, transfers is essentially trades in plain English. But again, we have to be very fancy with our lingo across the soccer landscape. So, but again, the windows don't line up though about when you're actually allowed to make moves though, Nick, because you can only do it though for a certain amount of time. Then once the window shuts, literally and figuratively, you have to wait till the next batch of dates open up, though, which in a way kind of hampers what teams can do and not do. So from that perspective for MLS, I get it because MLS is, as Nick, I think you might know, though, coming up over the summer with the World Cup, Trevor and I have a bunch of benchmark episodes as part of our soccer, our summer of soccer, series coming out. And part of it is about, David Beckham coming here nearly 20 years ago to play for the LA Galaxy. At that time, Nick, this league was looked upon as the retirement home for a player like Beckham or someone like that. And that really broke the mold, though, about, Beckham coming here, Donovan coming here, other players who have come here across almost every market. But again, Nick, this is now a league that's at 30 teams. At one point they were at 10, then 12, then they went back to 10. Then the league almost folded because Phil Anschutz was losing money running every damn team known to mankind, not named the Hunt family, who owns FC Dallas. But now, Nick, here we are with 30 teams, and now maybe talking them going to 32 with Vegas or Phoenix, maybe somewhere else on the East Coast, though. But again, I get it though from that perspective about on-field play. As a supporter, though, of a franchise in San Diego, the only thing that the schedule might do, just for me personally, is it might jack up how many games I go to, because the current model right now, I can go to like 15 games this season. Last year, in perspective, I got to go to the first ever game for SDFC in Carson. I couldn't get back to a game, Nick, until May 14th because of how the scheduling was. I had to be at work on certain days. This year, I think I've gone to 4 games already. Trevor, of course, went to one with me against St. Louis. But 3 of the games I've gone to was after I got off work in the afternoon. And that normally doesn't happen, though, with how the schedule works out, though. And I couldn't go last Sunday when we played Salt Lake City because I had to work that day. But you're right, though, Nick. It doesn't matter what time of year, there's going to be weather. And I think that sadly, it'll be the Pigeons, the Red Bulls, the Loons, all the teams that are in that area, Midwest, East Coast, that are going to be the most affected by the weather. And I think out west, Nick, Seattle, rain, Portland, rain, San Jose, rain, Salt Lake, Colorado, rain and snow. Those are the main teams I think are all going to be affected in some capacity. Florida might be dealing with some of, the rain, though, too. We'll get rain, though. But again, I understand what MLS is doing, though. But again, it's a lose-lose, I think, for the fan base, Nick, across all 30 clubs, not just my team here in SoCal.
No, I agree totally. They just got to figure out what makes the most sense from a weather perspective.
Because here's the problem, Nick, you're going to run into. When this new season begins, you're starting your season the same damn time as the NFL.
Well, what I'm going to say.
And that right there is what is, partially why I'm like, is this really a good idea, though? Again, transfer market's one thing, but now that you're going to be going head on, though, with the king of American pro sports, good luck.
Well, like I was about to say, what I was going to say as soon as you brought up the NFL. No one beats the NFL, unfortunately.
Nobody. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if you're a fan, not a fan, you hate it. Doesn't matter. Just any network is going to take the NFL over any sport. Doesn't matter. So it's a matter of finding your niche or finding your spot so that you can get the proper amount of attention necessary. But you've seen what the NFL has done, where now they're stealing attention from the NBA, for crying out loud, on Christmas. I mean, the NFL is just going to continue to meteorically rise, and it's going to take the attention from everybody else. So I think the MLS just has to settle on whatever they're going to do and just make it work. Because there's plenty of soccer fans out there that will watch soccer. But if you keep moving it like a game of Pong and you keep hitting it back and forth, people are creatures of habit when it comes to their viewing experiences. And if you keep moving it, people can't find and get used to where they're watching the games. So just pick a spot, whether it's East Coast, West Coast, however you want to set the schedule, And like I said, if you really want to fix the issue, roofs, but that involves a certain other thing that you would need a lot of if you want to put roofs in to really, I don't know, fix that issue. But I don't know how you really fix that issue.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be a way because, soccer is usually like football. It's played against the elements unless there's lightning, but you'll play through rain, you'll play through snow. Don't give me any shit if you're a Mexico soccer fan about Dos Aceto in Columbus because of how we, Team USA owned you for like 10 years straight, winning 2-0. But that you play against the elements, though, unless, of course, there's lightning in the area, which makes total sense, though.
Well,
but
that's the same as football, though. Same thing.
Yeah, and I remember, though, Nick's, I think this is a part of a Substack and part of the, support, the supporter culture episode that Trevor and I are working on, though, for benchmarks, is the first game I got to go to here was when we played the Colorado Rapids, and a bunch of their fans came to our tailgate party in our half of the parking lot. And literally, Nick, the looks on their faces, this was May 14th of last season, Nick. And they're like, guys, we have like 8 feet of snow still in Denver right now where we live. This is where we're going to be coming for our away days now. Whenever we come to San Diego, we're coming here now. Screw going to LA. We're coming here because of the weather, how the fan base treats us. I heard that from Colorado fans, Portland fans, Minnesota fans during the postseason last year. Some Vancouver fans, anybody, Nick, not from here who came to San Diego this past year are like, holy hell, where's this been for the last several years until this past season? So again, I think that it might help a little bit though. When these snowbirds, go in fact, do leave to come to certain markets though. But again, I think you're right though. It needs to be a set position and it just can't keep moving around the calendar every year like we're basically, doing donuts on the freeway.
If you look at every other professional sport, the NFL has a set schedule. The NBA has a set schedule. MLB, NHL, they all have set schedules. So the fan bases know, okay, I have to be here to start the season and it ends here. There's no other movement. For some reason, MLS is not getting that memo for whatever reason.
And this is the first time that they moved the calendar in 30 years to finally say we might need to catch up to the global game finally. About damn time.
I mean, it's give or take.
Oh, boy.
Mark Stein getting a statement from Adam Silver. Adam Silver says a special board of governors meeting will be called in May to vote on lottery reforms.
Oh, good Lord.
That go into effect for the 26-27 season and before this summer's upcoming draft and free agency. Quote, we are going to fix it, full stop, end quote.
Who are you people?
If you knew this was such a fucking issue, why didn't you address this seasons ago?
Why now is all I have to ask. I asked that of DiMartino on MTGP 4 weeks ago during the All-Star weekend.
I've questioned this forever.
We've questioned this forever on PR. Why all of a sudden now are we taking such a damn issue with teams that are not well put together? Where, again, it's the same repeat offenders every year. Nothing is sadly going to change.
And the thing is, there's no clear, concrete, 100% way to fix this because you could put rules in and the teams that are good right now in 5 to 7 years could be shitty teams in 5 to 7 years.
Aspiration.
So you're just going to be in the same scenario again where it'll just be the switch. The bad teams become the good teams become the bad teams. And there's no, this is dumb. Why are we doing this in the middle of a season?
I mean, we'll be in the middle of the playoffs, though, when this, emergency meeting of the board is held, though. But again, like I said, though, can somebody pull out or download their dictionary app or open it up and look up the word tanking? Is there a definitive, answer to the question about, what exactly tanking is for the NBA?
Let's see if I could look this up. Let's see. Definition of tanking in the NBA.
I mean, tanking on the stock market's one thing, but holy hell, the NBA needs to just quit worrying about this stuff.
Okay, so tanking in the NBA is the deliberate, strategic underperformance of a team to secure a high draft pick in the next NBA draft lottery.
But again, how do we actually define it clearly away from is it a player being injured or just the team being poorly run?
It says it involves sacrificing short-term performance by trading stars, resting players, or fielding young, inexperienced rosters to lose games and improve chances at drafting franchise-altering talent. Okay, that's fine. But at a certain point, if you're just doing it because your team stinks, like, what are we doing here?
That's what I've been wondering the whole time about everything that's gone on, though, regarding the whole, tanking. Like, again, how do you know that that's even a thing?
Well, tanking is real. That's been proven. But because teams wouldn't be as bad as they are because they know that the top players coming out of the draft, they want those guys. The tanking for Cooper Flagg was real. Like,
and it went to a team that had a 0.6% chance of winning the lottery.
Well, that I have an issue with. You want to fix that on who should be eligible for the first overall pick?
Yeah, it can't be every team who missed the playoffs. It would need to be like the top 6 worst records who have the better, who are only allowed to win the lottery.
Right. So that's the issue you got to figure out, whether it's the number 1 overall team. I don't think there should be any lottery balls at all.
Yeah, in your perfect world, though, in a alternate universe, it would just be worst record in the NBA gets the top pick, and it goes from there like the NFL.
I would literally just go down the line to stop this lottery ball nonsense because the worst team in the NBA should get the first overall pick. End of story. What, you're going to punish them by not giving them the first overall pick?
If anything, the lottery might be the bigger problem than tanking.
Well, if you think about it, the tanking is because of the lottery system. So, in theory, you're right. Because if there was no lottery system, would you be tanking as hard as you are?
No, not at all.
Well, let me take that back. You would still have tanking because then you would just be going for the worst record in the NBA.
Right.
But I think the reason they would put in the lottery system is to stop someone from just saying, oh, I'm going to be the worst team ever in the NBA and I'm going to be the worst record.
Yeah, but it sounds like the Clippers when they were here back in the late 70s, early 80s.
So it's kind of a catch-22.
Agreed. Double-edged sword.
Because you could remove the lottery system, but people are still going to tank for the worst record in the NBA.
Exactly.
The only thing that it would stop is, I guess, the 10th worst record wouldn't have a chance to be the first overall pick.
Like Dallas was this past year, for example, to get Cooper Flagg.
I mean, if you really want to do it, you want to do a lottery system, then you give, so the number 1 worst record gets the most lottery balls.
Yeah, there's no exception. The number 1 team has to have the highest percentage to get the top pick. There's no excuse as to why that can't be done.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the number 1 overall had the same or close to same odds as like the 9th and 10th team. I could look this up. What NBA lottery draft odds.
Because I think the NHL still gives the worst record a 25% chance, and I think everyone else is like 14% to win the lottery. I want to say I might be wrong though.
I'm trying to see if I can find the exact number or if they have that somewhere. But
oh no, it's private information.
Private information, my ass. Here it is. So this is from what year? This is from 25. And this was the odds to win the pick. Dallas was 1.8%. 11th overall when it came to records. And how can they win the number 1 overall pick when they have a 1.8% chance of even having a chance to win? So I find that kind of disturbing.
It is.
Where you look at these numbers, Utah So it was Utah, Washington, and Charlotte were 1, 2, and 3 at 14% each. Okay? So they had the worst records in the NBA last year. Then you have the Pelicans at 12.5, Sixers at 10.5, Brooklyn at 9%, Toronto 7.5%, Spurs 6%, Suns 3.8%, to the Trailblazers at 3.7. Then you hit the Mavs at 1.8% in the 11th spot. And then it drops. Bulls were 1.7%. Kings were 0.8%. And to round out the top 14, which were eligible, the Atlanta Hawks at 0.7%.
Nick, before we get to the back to the show here, there's a website, by the way, called tankathon.com that actually
I've heard of it.
They actually have the odds. Right now for the NHL, as I thought, the worst team gets a 25.5% chance to win the lottery in the NHL.
That's ridiculous.
So right now, the 11 teams who have a chance to win the lottery, Vancouver, worst team in the league right now, 25.5%. The Rangers, 13.5%. They're at number 2 right now. The Blackhawks, who have been in a massive rebuild for the last 5 to 7 years, 11.5%. Calgary, 9.5%. St. Louis, 8.5%. The Maple Leafs, 7.5%. The Jets, Winnipeg, 6.5%. San Jose, 6%. Seattle, 5%. LA, 3.5%. Florida, 3%. The 11th worst team has a 3% chance to win the draft lottery.
That's bad. That's bad because that could happen. That literally could happen. I don't know. But all right.
Brutal.
Let's get back on the track. So the NCAA versus DraftKings trademark war. This is kind of laughable.
Yeah.
So the NCAA has filed a massive lawsuit against DraftKings for unauthorized use of March Madness, Final Four, Elite Eight, and Sweet 16. This follows months of the NCAA targeting prediction markets like Kalshi,
Boo.
which we'll talk about, and Polymarket. So by suing DraftKings, is the NCAA attempting to reclaim its brand from the gambling industry, or is it just a high-stakes play for a massive licensing settlement?
Are we sure this isn't Novig in disguise about what you can and can't call it?
Wait a minute. I smell BS.
Oh, I smell Chick-fil-A chicken.
Oh, that sounds kind of good. I've never had Chick-fil-A, by the way.
I don't know about this, Nick. Like, in a way, this feels like we're kind of back in time when we had the Novig deal on playback. In a very much roundabout way about, you get a scathing 6-paragraph, email about you can't call it a bet. It's called a play. What's this? What's that? You can only refer to it as this, refer to it as that. Here's how you can, market everything. I mean, Nick, I think we're going a little bit overboard here when everybody out there knows what March Madness is and what we're at right now. Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four. What else do you call it? There's nothing else to call it if you are DraftKings or FanDuel or Novig or Ocean's 11, for God's sakes. You're going to call it what everybody knows it for, and if you don't, then what's the whole point of what's the whole point?
So I'm looking in my app right now because I'm curious to see if they changed anything. Let's see.
No.
But I do see less of bracket stuff. It looks like they're calling it college basketball now is what they're calling it.
What?
Well, what else are they supposed to call it? They're going to get
Exactly.
sued for their trademarks. I mean, this is literally the dumbest trademark lawsuit I've ever heard in my entire life. So you're insecure as the NCAA because DraftKings and others, what are they supposed to call the bets?
It's a play, damn it.
No, but I'm serious. What are you supposed to call it?
I don't know what. Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm sitting here like, what are you supposed to call it? You can't call it like what the Super 16 or I don't know, Elite Eight. I don't know, like the Crazy Eight. I mean, the last four. I mean, I don't know. This is ridiculous.
All because, first of all, I was shocked that they trademarked all those terms. Like, I understand March Madness. Now, I don't know. I have to look up if someone actually owns the trademark for March Madness. I'm sure they do.
I mean, you would think if they're suing, right?
Well, I don't know if they're suing for March Madness, but let's see for the term March Madness. Oh, the NCAA does own the trademark for March Madness.
I kind of thought they did at one point.
That's fucked up. Not gonna lie.
That's something else. Holy cow.
The NCAA holds the registration for promoting its high-profile college basketball tournament. It looks like the IHSA registered the phrase after it was coined in 1939.
Sheesh. Been that long.
The NCAA aggressively enforces its rights to March Madness and related terms like Final Four and the Big Dance. Is this for real?
Or is it something out of the Twilight Zone?
Because you really think DraftKings is trying to use your trademark to make money? Well, because of their bets, but you think they're doing it purposely to steal
They're
your
not doing it on
trademark?
purpose. They're calling it by what everybody out there knows what it is. Like, I get about protecting the brand and the shield and the logo and blah, 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 but come on now.
Okay, so they're calling the section March Madness, which I thought they were not supposed to do that, apparently.
That's why we're suing.
But I don't see any of the other...
I don't
Elite,
either.
Sweet 16, Elite 8. I'm looking in the app. It's March Madness. That's what they're calling it now.
Let me check Underdog because obviously DraftKings is like a death sentence out here, as I long tell our guests that are in the gambling industry out here in California.
Well, this case is specifically for DraftKings.
I know. I just want to see what else it says on here.
But I just find it laughable that
Underdog uses March Madness too.
I don't know what the gain is here. The NCAA, which already has enough issues between corruption and just being assholes, like now you're gonna do this, like
and by the way, Nick, the Yanks are favored on the Underdog money line at -127 for the night's game versus the Gigantes at Oracle Park.
I think the Yankees are technically the better team, but let's see. So this is the official NCAA statement. The NCAA today filed a complaint in federal court. This is like 5 days ago now. In Indianapolis against DraftKings seeking an emergency temporary restraining order, stopping the company from using the NCAA's federally registered trademarks, March Madness, Final Four, Elite 8, and Sweet 16, or any confusingly similar variation thereof. In connection with DraftKings sports wagering products, promotional campaigns, and marketing activities. The NCAA said the company's unauthorized use of its trademarks is flatly contrary to one of the association's most deeply held institutional values, that sports betting must not be associated with, endorsed by, or linked to NCAA championships or the student athletes who compete. Are you fucking kidding me?
Jeez,
it's the most. Besides the Super Bowl, March Madness is one of the most bet events every single year.
I was going to say it's either the Super Bowl, that, and then when it does roll around, the World Cup would probably be one too.
The NCAA makes it clear in the complaint and its motion that every day that DraftKings continues to use these marks, millions of sports fans and critically college students and young adults who are particularly susceptible to gambling harm. Are you kidding me?
So in a way, they're just reiterating my point from 8th grade about advertising gambling on a college campus.
But wait a minute. They're saying that DraftKings using their terms on their app is making people susceptible to gambling? Are you kidding me?
Wasn't there a story, Nick, that apparently that like they're pushing to like make gambling like big tobacco?
Well, there
trying to
was a
keep it together?
story that someone who sued the tobacco companies was going after DraftKings because of it made them what's it called? Degenerate gamblers.
Yeah, they didn't do that. You did that to yourself.
It reminds me of a classic case study. This is a little off the path for a second, but if you remember Super Size Me, the movie,
Yes.
I had to watch it in a health class.
I think I had them watch it too when I was in high school.
But if you remember, he did the whole social experiment where he ate McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for, I think, 30 days to see what would happen. The guy was in incredible shape. But in the movie, they talk about people who are overweight suing McDonald's for making them fat.
That's not how it works, people. There's a difference.
Now, put aside the weight, the fat,
Yes.
because I'm not talking about fat shaming, okay? Because I would never do that. But the reason you're overweight is because you're eating the food more than the average person does.
Yeah, Mickey D's wasn't forcing you to eat their food. You chose to eat their food.
And people, and I'm going to try and look this up, but literally overweight people were suing McDonald's because they're overweight. It's the same thing with gambling, okay? You chose to gamble. DraftKings and FanDuel, now, they might put a million ads in your face to the point where you want to punch them in the face, but you make the choice to gamble. You make the choice to put money in the account, not the other way. In 2002 and 2003, overweight teenagers and their families sued McDonald's in New York, alleging the fast food chain's products caused their obesity and health issues. Do you know how stupid that sounds? What? Due to misleading marketing and lack of nutritional disclosure. Are you going to McDonald's for nutrition?
No, that's kind of like Jared Fogle eating Subway all those years for those commercials. Hate to bring it up, but that's kind of the same case study.
Yeah, but Subway, if you eat it the right way, like if you eat vegetables or whatever, you could be healthy-ish. Not healthy, but ish. But my point is, going back to the gambling thing, you decide to gamble. You decide to download the DraftKings, the FanDuel, the Underdog, the Prize Picks, whatever app to gamble. And now the NCAA is suing for their trademarks because they think it's that DraftKings is making them susceptible to gambling on campus. Gambling was on campus before these idiots and these apps came along.
I was just going to say, didn't Scott Farrell say the same damn thing when he was on here for his appearance, though, about how his son has his own bookie at San Diego State University, for God's sakes?
Which is not legal, by the way.
Yes.
But gambling has been a problem way before these gambling apps were ever.
It's only being magnified now because everybody can do it in some way, shape, form, or size now on their phone or on their computer.
You can do it on your computer, your laptop, your iPhone. I mean,
but wait, there's even more gambling, Nick, as we've been following this story, though, too. But now 2 states have now taken some hard action on Kalshi, including a Nevada state court granting a temporary restraining order against Kalshi, prohibiting sports contracts for at least the next 2 weeks, while Michigan is moving its enforcement from a federal court back to state courts, arguing that Kalshi's contracts are legally gaming. Nick, with both Nevada and Michigan turning up the heat, is the legal prediction market loophole across the country finally beginning to close?
yes, I need to get that out of my system because Kalshi is dumbest platform I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, Polymarket's pretty damn close, though, too, right?
Which one?
Polymarket.
Oh, well, Polymarket's got its own issues. They're both under legal litigation because they don't know how to do business properly.
Correct.
But good. Send these prediction markets away. They're trying to skirt the rules.
You mean circumvention, like aspiration?
Yeah, exactly. Because they want to get around the rules. Oh, we're legal in all 50 states because we're not gambling. Who are you fooling? Who are you fooling? Tell me who you're fooling.
Absolutely nobody.
I mean, what? You're not fooling anyone, man. Like, stop. Like,
I mean, and by the way, if you're a cow share poly market, why are you trying to intrude upon Nevada when you know damn well it's not going to go anywhere for you? Give me a break.
And most of Vegas bans prediction markets.
Yes,
because they don't want it competing with actual gambling.
And I think Reno and Carson City have similar things though too, because they also are two big gambling cities too in Nevada. And I would wonder the same thing though. I wonder though, Nick, about the same thing about Atlantic City, for example, too, in Jersey.
Well, they have legal jurisdiction for actual gambling. Because, like, I've heard Nick D and Liam. By the way, you'll hear Nick D later at 6 p.m. Eastern after us for unnecessary wagers. Ironically, anyway, he was saying like or was it Liam? I don't remember who it was, but they were both talking about it. That you have to go to MetLife. You have to go to the stadium to do the gambling because of geolocation.
Wow.
Because the apps know.
And that's in East Rutherford, and I'm guessing it's pretty far away from Atlantic City.
Well, no. I'm saying like if you're in New York, you have to go to New Jersey.
Ah, gotcha.
You can't be in New York. Like I think Liam was telling me that if you say you want to make New York bets, you have to go to New Jersey. I think.
So you would have to cross state lines.
Because, like, for instance, when I was looking at my app, when LIU was playing Arizona, like, even though I was talking about at the time, like 38 or whatever points it was.
By the way, Nick, just for those wondering, it's about a 2-hour and 10-minute drive from MetLife Stadium to Atlantic City.
Well, as long as you're in New Jersey, you can make bets.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, from New York, you would have to go to New Jersey if you wanted to do certain things. But, like, in the tournament, the LIU game did not show up. The Hofstra game did not show up. They're not allowed to put it.
I remember you and Dino saying that on the lounge on Sunday last week, I think, when we did it.
Because for some weird law, like, we couldn't make bets on those games. I don't know why. I don't know who cares? Who gives a shit?
We'll never know.
But just looking at the story that a Senate bill was introduced, and I think it legally went through. The new bill adds to growing efforts at the state level to clamp down on prediction markets. The other big thing that they were having an issue with was the contracts, they call it.
I remember that being a thing.
And so that's what this is trying to stop, that these companies, these prediction markets are putting these sports contracts out, which is where all the money is going to.
Right.
The Trump administration has defended prediction market companies. Well, duh, because they're invested in Polymarket, I think. I think they are. Trump Jr., I think he's invested in Polymarket.
MLB just signed a contract with Polymarket before opening day.
Good Lord. We didn't even get to talk about that, did we?
No.
I just want to look this up before I get the information wrong. So, yes. Okay, so Donald Trump Jr.'s VC firm is invested in Polymarket. So, I don't trust that for shit. They should have to recuse themselves from any of those situations with prediction markets since they're invested in one. Little odd considering that the family's in the White House. I don't know. So Tariq Mansour, was this the guy we saw on Squawk Box?
This was the guy on Squawk Box, yes.
So Kalshi's co-founder reacted to the legislation on social media, writing that it was casino lobby hard at work. Banning just pushes this offshore where no regulations exist. This bill isn't about protecting consumers. It's about protecting monopolies.
I don't know if that's really 100% accurate, though, when Vegas and Atlantic City make their money off gambling.
These gambling companies make so much fucking money. It's not even funny, okay? And stop with the bullshit of it's offshore. Oh, there's plenty of offshore gambling. Okay?
I mean, I don't know who's worse, though, Tariq Mansour or Brett Hoffman Jr., or are they just clones?
Or they're AI bots. But who's counting?
I mean, they're both clowns anyway, so give or
but
take.
Just an alert, just so people know, we're going to be taking a break in about 5 minutes, just so everybody knows. Doug Feinberg is going to join us from the AP, National Women's Basketball writer, to talk more about the women's CBA, if we didn't talk about it enough already today. Both interviews will be up separately. You'll be able to watch the entire show in replay. YouTube.com/GTB Network. Make sure you go and subscribe. Thank you to the 158 people who are watching live currently right now. Claps to you. Keep going. And if you're watching, subscribe. Help. Watch on our YouTube side. We continue to grow. It allows us to do more things if we can become monetized and grow this channel.
Yes, we have a lot of creative ideas for bonus content if you get us to 3,000 and 4,000 watch hours. Believe us.
Yeah. But to finish up on Tariq Mansour, the Kalshi founder, Mansour, among others, describes contracts offered on prediction markets as commodity market swaps, which only the federal government may regulate. But several states are challenging that premise in court, arguing that this is a form of gambling, therefore subject to state regulation. That I agree with. It is gambling. Fuck you, Novick. It is gambling.
No, but we're legal in 30 states.
You're not legal in New York or LA. And I found that hilarious. I don't know if I told this audience yet, but I had an interaction with the CEO of Novig on Twitter. And I said, you guys are never coming back. And his claim to me was that they're coming back to New York and LA.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it there, Skippy.
Yeah, good luck passing those regulations, those legislations. New York and LA have the strictest gambling laws in this country.
California might be worse than New York, honestly, as I've long said on here over the last year.
But generally, New York and LA are two of the toughest when it comes to getting a gambling license. You remember when Barstool was trying to get theirs for their Barstool sports book, which ended up tanking and falling apart anyway.
And what else is new, though?
But they couldn't get the license. It was just too damn difficult to fight all the legislation situation from that regard. Kalshi on Monday announced new guardrails targeting insider trading and market manipulation on its platform. Gee, it's about time.
Took you long enough there, you idiots.
You mean like Cardi B not counting as a performer during the Super Bowl?
And I'm sure that D-Mart will take that wager to his grave whenever, just because he was so pissed.
The company said it will preemptively ban athletes, employees, and referees involved in college and professional sports from trading in certain markets. Oh, no, but you'll just have a Giannis Antetokounmpo be on your board as an owner of just under 1%.
And you'll give Devin Booker's foundation like $500,000.
Polymarket also instituted its own set of bans and rules. The company rewrote its rules to say clearly that users cannot trade on contracts where they might possess confidential information. How do you prove that? How do you prove that? Do you know? Because I don't know.
I have no idea either.
It also says this would include athletes, but also include company officials, policymakers, or anyone who would have enough influence to affect the outcome of it. Again, how do you regulate that?
Yep, there's no magic answer.
That's exactly my point.
I mean, it goes to our favorite point, though, about, fan got banned for life from the stadium. Well, all they have to do is just create a new alias, and they can get into the stadium.
Exactly. As we get finished with hour number 2, get ready for our interview with Doug Feinberg. You'll see him on the other side of the break. Like I said, follow the show at Press Row ETB. We're going to put out a lot of clips and stuff from this show. This was a great show. So you're going to get to see some pretty amazing interviews and stuff that we will put up in replay afterwards. We'll go watch the whole show on YouTube so you can go relive it. But now we are going to take a short break, and we will be back with Doug Feinberg right after the break. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
You see the final score, we track the revenue stream. Welcome to the show that treats the sports world like the multi-billion-dollar business it is. We dissect the ownership deals, the television right battles, the NIL impact, and the media figures driving the entire narrative. From Wall Street to the locker room, we follow the money and the people who control the message. Welcome to Press Row, the business of sports, right here on the Empty the Bench Network. Now, here's your hosts, Callan McClurg and Nick Morgasen. And welcome back to Press Row, entering the third and final hour of an action-packed Wednesday show. Back alongside Nick Morgasen and Callan McClurg here in San Diego. Nick, we've unpacked so much from the WNBA's transformative CBA deal over the course of our program, but why not bring in one more heavy hitter to talk all things about the ongoing, finally finalized CBA over the past couple of weeks than none other than our good man, Doug Feinberg of the AP.
Yeah, let's do it. So, Doug, how are you?
Doing well, guys. How are you doing today?
Good. A lot of craziness with the WNBA, CBA. Finally, an agreement comes. I guess before we get into the nuts and bolts, can you just talk about, from someone who wants to get into journalism, the experience you had sitting outside that hotel in the city? Now, I'm in New York. I'm in Long Island, so I know where you were. But just tell everybody what that's like so they get an idea of how hard it is, the job you're doing.
Well, I've been a journalist now for 32 years, and I'm a native New Yorker. Let me add that also. I've never camped out in New York City for anything in my entire life. Never like for shows, restaurants, Saturday Night Live, anything of that nature. And I was literally out with 3 other journalists till 5:30 in the morning some nights on the streets of New York in front of a hotel. So I have a greater appreciation for people who do that more for a living, staking things out from that standpoint. It was a new experience. It was a fun experience at the beginning that after a while sort of started to take its toll on you, mental fatigue, physical fatigue, just from being out there. And the problem with the CBA or any negotiation is like, you don't know an endpoint. Like, you cover a basketball game, you know, it's a 2-hour game, maybe it goes to overtime, 2-5, 2-10. You had no idea when this was going to break. So you're sitting there waiting for something to happen, hopefully something to happen. Or you're there at 3 a.m, 4 a.m, hoping that they'll talk to you when they decide to call it quits for the night.
I mean, Doug, Nick and I did a 3-hour bonus episode of our show on the de facto deadline date that Commissioner Engelbert gave on March 10th. It was one of our most viewed episodes of our show here on ETB. I think we had like over 750 viewers.
Live.
A lot of them though were women's basketball junkies. We had people write in that were Mercury season seat holders and just fans of the game who wanted to, find out more. And, we were doing our best because we were relying, so much on yourself, Annie, and Alexa, and the other writers out there that were, outside the lobby of the Langham Hotel in New York City, as you had kind of alluded to, though. But I guess, though, Doug, when the coverage is going as long as it did, though, and you guys are, relying on almost the general public in a way, like giving you guys coffee and snacks and camping chairs just to, get through the evening. You talk about that experience, though, but how about maybe seeing like even just the general public maybe wanting to know what exactly you guys were doing in front of that hotel, though. And then we obviously saw all the pictures, though, of you guys getting your coffee and your snacks or whatnot, but maybe how the general public reacted, though, to what you guys were doing, though, to cover this entire ordeal.
Sure. Well, first off, we had a lot of, quote, fairy godparents who would send us coffee, donuts, cookies, the Domino's pizza, which I still make fun of the people who sent that to us being a New Yorker. I think you could appreciate it. Domino's is probably not top 20 pizzas you'd get in New York. And listen, people sending us something, that credit to them. I'm not disparaging it, but anyway, but like the abuse that those people took online when we posted the photo of the Domino's pizza was fair, I guess you could say. There's a great slice around every corner is the New York motto in some areas. But to answer your question, the general public was great. The 4 of us that were there, we were sort of the lifeline to what was going on the outside of, or I should say the inside in the negotiations. what I thought was great, Annie did such a great job that people who came by the first night, like, hey, what are you here for? Who are you staking out? Because I guess the Argentinian president was at that hotel the night before. So they thought that we were like staking him out or her out for like some sort of media thing. We're like, no, we're here for the WNBA. And Annie, I'd say at least 30 times that first night, would explain to people that we're here for the WNBA. Season starts May 8th. You should become fans. Like, she was a great ambassador for the league while we're sitting out there. And it was usually a pretty positive reception. People going, oh my God, the WNBA is here. Like, I followed a little bit. There's one quick story. A gentleman who probably was in his 50s, maybe 60s, stopped by. He told us he was a WNBA fan. He made a comment that we were a little bit surprised at, but then he's like, yeah, when I was in college at UCLA, I used to play pickup with Annie Myers-Drysdale. And he knew that. And we're like, wow, this instant credibility, right? If you did that. And he knew other players and other teams. And then that first comment, we're like, okay, we can forget that. The rest, he knows what he's talking about and such. And it was great. He says he goes to Sparks games. He lives in LA, was in town for the weekend for work. But just, I mean, the general public was interested in what we were doing in person, but also on social media. And it was great to see the growth of this league. I've covered the league for 20 years. The last CBA, no one cared about it in the sense that it was done in December. They actually hid the fact or didn't mention the fact that everything was done with the ratifications and actually writing the CBA by the time they announced it in early January. And there was never the thing of like people thinking of staking out meetings and such. There's only one day of overnight meetings, what Nneka Ogwumike told me in that last CBA. So just it's changed the landscape the last 6 years or so with fans being more interested, media paying more attention to it, that I think is great for the game.
So 100 plus hours is what we heard for the amount of time the negotiations took. Was it really 100 plus hours? Was that an exaggerated number? Was there full negotiating going on in that 100 hours? Tell us about that 100 hours being there and seeing it.
So that's a great question. I actually had a story move this morning, a behind the scenes look at the negotiations, the 8 days. I was fortunate enough to talk to a lot of the players that were there, the head counsel or this head outside counsel for the union. The league talked to me a little bit about it. It's funny, the lawyers know 100 hours, they said was under the amount that they negotiated because lawyers get paid by the hour, they bill by the hour. So that number is actually a lot higher than 100. We came up with 100 just based on the hours that we were there and we saw them enter and saw them leave. So you add up the 15 hours or 14 hours a day, you get to roughly 100. They were negotiating. There was the thing. Here's the surprising fact I found out from the players for that behind the scenes story. There was probably not as much time as you think that they literally sat across from each other at the main table and had a staring contest to figure things out. They'd sit in there for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, go back to their own rooms, discuss what was discussed in that bigger meeting. They'd have smaller group meetings. One of the players told me a funny story that when the head lawyer outside counsel for their side and the league side would have these private meetings, they called the sandbox, chance for them to get together and like have their own private discussions where nothing got settled there, but they could sort of feel out each other as far as some of the issues, what could be potentially some movement on either side. So there was 100 hours of discussions, but I wouldn't say it was 100 hours of negotiating face-to-face in that whole time. A lot of it was you send a proposal to the other side. They sit there for 4 or 5 hours, sort of pick out what changes you made, what the things that they think they can do and not do, and then go back and make their proposal back to the other side. So 100 hours in the hotel, in the NBA headquarters, in the union headquarters, but not face-to-face where they're literally sitting there and across the table for 100 hours like you might see in a courtroom drama or some sort of like TV show that way.
I just want to follow up with one thing because I saw in a lot of the reports that like they were reportedly sneaking out side doors to dock the media. Was that true or was that made up or was that did that happen?
It happened the first night. And listen, we had no idea how many days we were going to be there. Like we thought maybe 2 nights they'll get this thing done. They're meeting face to face. We heard things were closer to point. We were not close to that sort of estimate. The first night at 3 a.m, the players went out a side door of the hotel, and the ESPN producer happened to be on the corner, saw them, and yells over, "They're going, they're leaving. The players are leaving. The players are leaving." So we run around the corner. They get in the cars. They wouldn't talk to us. And it was discouraging. I mean, we found it afterwards that their room on the 3rd floor of the hotel overlooked the front of the hotel. So they literally saw us sitting there in our chairs and such. And they actually took photos. Brianna Turner showed us a photo of us in the chairs from up above because they were so interested and appreciative that we had spent the time that we were there to stay with them. We were going through this with them. So that's what made that first night even more frustrating for us, that like you knew we were there, you knew what we were putting the same time in you were, and yet you go out a side door and don't talk to us. They told us the next day, hey, listen, we apologize. They came over. It was a beautiful day outside New York. I think it was like 60 degrees. We had a conversation with them. They said they didn't know what to say. They didn't want to say the wrong thing to potentially mess up negotiations. The head of the union came down later that night, as did Kathy Engelbert. So we got something, but it's like I can appreciate them saying that. You wish they'd come out the front door and say, hey, guys, we got nothing to say. Terry will come down later and talk to you guys. It's been a long day, or something, without saying anything, so to speak. So after that first day, they did not go outside doors. They talked to us, or they said, hey, we can't talk today. And it was definitely a level of respect. But yes, that first night, it was unfortunate and a situation for everybody.
Doug, we played a clip from a TikTok from WNBA player Natasha Cloud right before the deadline kind of came and went. I want to say late February, maybe the first week of March. And Tosh had kind of went on a bit of a lengthy rant regarding the front office, how they were acting in a way. We are of the belief, though, that, both sides could be guilty as charged of what has gone on. But Nick and I were very surprised, though, that a player would come out, though, directly and say, this is what we're looking for by, the slice of the pie, those. We'll talk more about the CBA and the meat and potatoes here in a moment. But Nick and I were also floored by the notion that Tosh publicly said, I wish I could tell you more, but we signed our life away with NDAs when it came to about the CBA. Doug, do you perhaps know, though, about how maybe messy or tense things may have gotten, though, during the course of these 8 days, though? I mean, we saw some videos of them popping champagne, and I think Brianna Turner shared a photo of them having some of the hotel blankets and pillows on the ground for whatever. But did anything maybe perhaps get a little bit tense, maybe a little bit out of control, though, as far as you know of?
I'll phrase it this way. When any negotiation happens in any business, it's going to get heated on either side.
For sure.
It's just natural. I mean, all the arbitration deals in baseball, the ownership group or the teams are trying to make the player look bad. If somehow Shohei Ohtani was up for arbitration, they'd figure a way to make him sound like he's a terrible player just to try to save a couple dollars here. We all know that Shohei is unbelievable about baseball player, that they do what they do to try to get a discount, so to speak. So I think there was obviously heated moments in the 8 days and the time leading up to that. Was it irreparable harm done? No, I don't think so. I mean, it's just negotiation tactics is the best way to, I think, phrase it. I didn't see Tasha's video, so it's tough for me to comment on it. But I think, listen, you said earlier about the deadlines, and deadlines are there for a reason, and the union didn't believe in them. The league put them out there. They actually got them negotiating in person after the March 10th deadline. I mean, without that, would they have gotten together? Who knows? So that served its purpose. They had also said like the Monday, the day before they actually finished the negotiations, was like, we have to get something done by this date. Well, there's also a wiggle room in there. There's a 48-hour wiggle room. Stuff was getting done. I think, listen, you can say there's no deadlines, which the union at some point said to us as the media, but their season was starting May 8th. Fans have bought tickets for those games. Their exhibition games on April 25th. Indiana's coming to New York. That's probably going to have 18,000 fans there. People have bought tickets for that. So you can say there's no deadline, but if you got to April 24th, there's no CBA yet, you ain't playing the game the next day. So I think, again, negotiating tactics, comments made to sort of hear the moment to get your side's opinion across is there. But I don't think any harm was done irreparable for the future of this league or the relationships by TikToks made or comments made early on in negotiations.
I guess I was going to save this for later, but I'll ask it now about Kathy Engelbert, commissioner of the sport. Not a good reputation with the players. A lot of issues. Callan and I have talked about Kathy a lot. Putting out deadlines, not being met. Callan and I at one point were like, is she serious at one point when she puts out deadlines for when these deals? Were those actually real deadlines to get the CBA done? Or was that more of her just trying to like push it down the path because there was no negotiating actually taking place until they got together?
Well, as it kind of just said, like in their mind, those were deadlines to get something done, to get negotiations moving, to meet face to face. That first deadline of March 10th, I think it was. I know there were deadlines before that, but They really, I mean, there's a calendar. If you look at now what they have to do now that the CBA is finished, you have an expansion draft, you have the college draft, you have 80% of the league of free agents. There's a lot to do, and there isn't much time to do it in. So there's deadlines. Whether the date she told us was the specific drop dead date, I don't think that was the case. But if they had not met in person by March 10th, there could be trouble. There could be like postponements and cancellations of things. If they didn't get a deal done by that Monday, and they just, hey, we're done, we're not negotiating anymore, same thing. You'd have to probably get some stuff going there. But negotiation was going the right direction, that I think it was positive for everybody that there's a hard deadline, soft deadline. I don't think those were hard deadlines that if a deal's not done by this day and we're not negotiating at all, then stuff will have to change. If the negotiations are going on both sides, good faith, then the deadline's more of a soft deadline.
I guess just to follow up on one other thing, was there ever any potential that the WNBA could have, because there was rumors that, oh, maybe they're never going to survive these negotiations. I know that's very exaggerating when saying it, but was that ever a potential that these negotiations were ever going to come and agree to a deal?
So I'll use a prop here. I'm a glass half full guy, and that glass is empty, but I always thought that something would get done eventually. I mean, there's too many people too many smart people in the room to let this thing fail, and that there would be a deal done at some point, whether it took till the last minute, the 12th hour, so to speak, instead of the 11th hour, a deal would get done. Could there have potentially lost preseason games and such? Yeah, there's a real possibility that could have happened. But I think both sides knew that, hey, we need to get something done. The momentum is so great right now for this league. It'd be really not a smart move to mess it up.
Absolutely. You know, there was no way that he could fumble this with where the league has gone, though, in the last couple of years with the hype around Caitlin Clark and the, you know, players coming into the league, though, this upcoming draft, though, coming up on April 19th. I guess, though, Doug, the one thing, though, that Nick and I had long also discussed, though, was that I think the one clear difference between both the PA and the front office was about the revenue sharing. You know, Nick and I have talked about, you know, obviously you can't compare the W to the other major leagues out there when it comes to the revenue sharing model, where, again, it's, you know, 50-50 here for one league, 51-49 here, or 52-48. But I guess, Doug, do you happen to know, though, how many concessions that the Players Association had made to kind of get this deal finally done? Because we were looking at, you know, housing. We were looking at a lot of other things that the players were, you know, in a way pulling back from, because it just felt like they kept getting pressed into a corner.
So the CBA is not completely written yet, so I don't know all the details of what was given up and such. And they haven't shared what the revenue share model is. They've just said roughly it's about 20% average per year. So we don't know if it's net revenue or gross revenue or somewhere in between. So it's tough for me to answer like that part of it. To get back to the question before about Kathy Engelbert, it's kind of related to this. I think from everything I know from people inside the rooms, Kathy actually did a really good job of making everybody happy in the end. She made the owners happy, she made the teams happy, and she made the players happy. There were concessions that she said, hey, we have to give the players this, we have to give the players that to make sure that they are taken care of, whether it was the back pay for retired players, whether it was giving them the higher salary cap, whatever it was, she was an advocate for the players on that side as well as being for the owners, which I don't think has been out there much. Everyone's always attacking her for her relationships with the players. Obviously, the Collier comments last year, her opinion on that. But I think Kathy, I've said in other places that she is one of the winners of this CBA negotiation. The players I thought were good winners. They got 5-time salary bump. They got housing paid for the first 3 years. And then if you're making under a certain amount, it's still paid for in the next 2 after that. I think most players will be in the threshold to be able to afford housing themselves. Listen, I've worked at the AP for 30 plus years. They never paid my housing once. So it's not a common perk. I get why the league did it for so many years. It made sense to do it. But I think if you're making $1 million, it's tough to say, hey, we should pay for your housing for 5 months over the course of the season. I mean, that's a little bit much, but the league is still doing that for the first 3 years of the new CBA. So they're still taking care of them. I just think that both sides won. I don't want to say the players made concessions more than the league did. I think both sides made concessions. But every player I've talked to has been extremely happy with what they've gotten so far that they know of out of the new CBA.
The public perception is on the revenue, and a lot of players and everyone was saying, and we talked about it because everyone would come into our live stream and say, oh, well, the WNBA's in the red. They're not making any money, which we used to say to people, there's no way you could possibly know because the numbers are not public. There's no way to know. And Kathy came out and said, oh, if we take your deal, we're gonna lose money. Was there actually losing of money if they took a little more of what the players were asking for, whether it was a higher revenue percentage or more money? Like, was that an over-exaggeration, or were they actually going to lose a ton of money if they got more what they asked for?
I mean, I don't know how many professional teams in any sports actually make money in the course of a season, in the course of a year. Most of them actually lose money, I believe. The thing that everyone talks about is valuation. If a team is valued at $500 million or $1 billion, well, that's not money they're making. That's saying, if I sell that team, this is what I can get for it. And that net money they'll be making in the end, but day to day or year to year, they're not making $1 billion on that team. So I think that had they wanted 40% gross revenue originally in their first offer. That would put the league in a really, really, really bad spot financially. I don't think there was any way that they could handle that. Teams couldn't handle that. So I think, again, I've never seen the books. They've never opened up the books to the media. I believe they actually showed some of the books to the union, is my understanding, over the course of negotiations. So I don't think the union ever disputed that they would lose money in their revenue sharing model they wanted. That was never said, like, that's inaccurate, you'll still make money. But again, without information about what exactly is in the books and how much money they're losing, it's tough for me to speculate of, hey, this is what they're actually going to lose. I trust that you wouldn't say you're going to lose $400 million if you're not going to lose $400 million. And the union would have countered back, saying, whoa, we've seen your books. You're not going to lose that much money. So that's just the outsider's view of what I think is what happened there.
Doug Feinberg, AP women's basketball writer, joins us on Press Row here for Hour 3 on this Wednesday afternoon. Doug, the WNBA, though, I think is going in a very good direction now that they're going to go beyond their current 12-team, 13-team blueprint and formula right now, adding 2 new teams, but also going back to some old markets within the next 2 years, like Portland coming in this season, going to Toronto, going back to Cleveland, going back to Detroit, going to a very, I think, intriguing market, too, in Philadelphia. Now, while all that, though, Doug, is great, there's that kind of big elephant in the room, though, involving the Connecticut Sun. We've heard a lot of different conflicting reports, though. We had the one, though, that was very shocking at the very beginning of last season, that the Celtics wanted to buy the franchise from the Mohegan Sun tribe, move them to Boston, play their games at the Garden, maybe somewhere else around Beantown. Then came the public, announcement by Kathy Engelbert, we're going to veto the move and buy the franchise from the tribe and move them to Houston, Texas to bring back the Comets. Doug, do you happen to know any update to that story right now? Because Nick and I were very perplexed, though, about why would the league not want to go to a bigger market like Boston with an owner who seems to care to, inject life into that franchise. And then all of a sudden the league says no, kind of in a way takes the team away from the potential new ownership and then says we're going to go to Houston, Texas instead. That's a great question. I found the whole thing funny in the sense that the argument that was made was, well, Boston hadn't put up to be an expansion team when they were talking about expansion to Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. So why should we reward them with the city? They're sort of circumventing the expansion route. And same thing was said about Hartford. And I was like, why would Hartford bid for a team when there's a team 50 minutes away in Mohegan Sun? Like, that would make zero sense to do that. So I was surprised by that sort of piece of information. My understanding is that they didn't like the Boston ownership group. They wanted like the Celtics current ownership group to be the one to buy a team. So they weren't offering to do that right now. So that's why they potentially were going down to Houston instead of going to Boston. They obviously had success. They played 2 regular season games in Boston the last 2 years, and they were sold out. They were great games. Unfortunately, I think Caitlin Clark got hurt in the last one in Boston, and that ended her season last year. But the fans are into it. There's great stuff around not just the game, but fan fests and activities that were very well received. So I think Boston's a great market. I think if you have Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, like same as you have in the NBA, it's great to have sort of that rivalries, Northeast. That's a great thing for everybody. So nothing against the Houston area. I'm sure they'll do a nice job. The Comets obviously won the first 4 titles, and then they obviously went defunct after that.
But I think that Boston will be a team that WNBA will get a city. See that they'll get a team in at some point in the 2030s, whenever that is. The market's too interested in women's basketball. You don't want to alienate the Connecticut fan base. I mean, Connecticut has been so good in college basketball as fans for the last 40 years, 30 years. And now you had supported the Connecticut Sun for so many years. The Mohegan Sun at the time was a great size venue. It seats 8,000 to 9,000. It was sold out. It felt loud. It was great. I just think that moving a team out of Connecticut, out of the Northeast, is not good long-term for the WNBA.
I guess just to go back slightly as we continue to talk the CBA, did you find it interesting that there was 80% of free agents when this CBA was coming? Basically, everyone decided to become a free agent going into this situation. Did you find that as rarefied air in a sense that everybody became a free agent? You don't see that in any other sport, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only two veterans that are not are the two Browns, Lonnie and Lexi, the only two that are not free agents this year. It's smart by the agents. I mean, they knew that there's going to be a transformational, historic, landmark CBA deal where there would be huge bumps in salary. So why wouldn't you make yourself a free agent this year to be able to get that $1 million contract, that $500,000 contract that you can get in this new deal? So it's smart. It's unprecedented. I don't think any other sports ever had anything like this where that much of the league is free agents this year. With the short window they're going to have to actually sign with new teams this year, I could see potentially a lot of players going back to their old team for a 1-year contract, get some money now, and then next year really become a free agent and see what's out there, see what Toronto and Portland are like as franchises. Is it worth going there? Golden State had a great year last year, and obviously that's a place that free agents may want to go because they treated the players well. The fan base is incredible. So I think it's unprecedented. It's something that I don't think will ever happen again because there won't be this sort of transformational CBA, maybe 6 years from now, but we'll see. I think this is going to be a fun time and a real interesting spot with potentially teams getting whole new rosters by the end of April.
Just to take a transformational look all the way back to when Nafisa gave that interview and she wrote that letter and at her post conference and called out Kathy. How do you look at from that point to where we got now when it comes to the negotiations? Like, do you think that they got fully where they wanted to get? Was there more that they wanted? How do you look at it from when that started to now?
I think, as I said, like the players got a really good deal here in the new CBA. And again, I don't know all the specifics. They haven't written them yet as far as like some of the smaller ticket items, but to hear that you're a rookie and you're going to make over $300,000 as your first year, that's 10 times what they were making or 8 times what they were making now. A player to make $1 million this year, that's 4 times what they were making last year as a max player. So those numbers are so much better and so much more in line with what they should be earning. And it's what their salaries they're making overseas when they play in Turkey or Russia or China or Spain or wherever they're playing in the overseas market. So it's going up, and that's just year one. You potentially by year 6 you'd have a $2 million player. So it definitely is growing. As far as like, is it what everything they wanted when they had the I guess 8 months ago or 7 months ago when Fee wrote that letter? It's not for me to say because I don't know again what specifics are. But if anyone doesn't think this was transformational as far as what they've gotten in this deal versus the last deal, you're probably not paying attention.
Yeah, I think so. Doug, the other thing, though, that Nick and I were a little bit perplexed about was draft day of April last year when I first joined the network here was concerning Kathy's commentary about these other leagues like Unrivaled and Project B launching, I think, this November. And Nick and I have long said, though, that there needed to be a way where the players could stay domestically and play without, the fear of going overseas because what we saw with Brittany Griner in Russia a few years ago. But, Doug, I think we were more, thrown for a loop when Kathy said that these leagues weren't competition for the WNBA, where we also were very, broadsided, I'd say, though, too, seeing Breanna Stewart sign the contract to go play back in Turkey in case there was no CBA deal done. Doug, from your perspective, though, now with the new deal in place for the next, 5 to 7 years, and now I think with the rise of Unrivaled and then, Project B, will we see more players maybe try to stay stateside coming up over the offseason, or what do you think probably happens, though, from your perspective?
So prioritization, the rule that was obviously in the last CBA about making sure you're at camp on time or else you are suspended or fined, whatever it was, that's not out there yet. They have not publicized what, if any, changes to that rule or in the new CBA, which would affect playing overseas potentially for the veteran players. I don't think Unrivaled is a competition. I think it's an unbelievable league. What Stewie and Fee did to create that is great. It keeps the players in market in the States so that if they need to, they could go back, fly to LA or to Phoenix or to Seattle or to New York to do a marketing thing or to do something local for your WNBA team. It's also 3-on-3. Listen, I was at New York for the semifinals. That place was rocking. There's 18,000 fans there. It was crazy. It was a great atmosphere for women's basketball, but it was also 3-on-3. It wasn't 5-on-5. So the court was a little smaller. It's a different game in a lot of ways. It's got its advantages to it and things that are not 5-on-5. But I think for that specific one, it's more could be a compliment to the WNBA and something to keep the players paid well in the offseason, and it's a shorter season and in market and being domestic in the U.S. Project B is a whole different animal. I don't know. It's still growing. It's still people are still learning about it, and I don't know how it's going to all shake out come this November when they start playing games. It's more like Formula One, having like 8 different tour spots, and you play there for 8 to 10 days. To me, it's a TBD. Let's see how it goes. I don't have enough information on it to say, hey, this is a direct threat to the WNBA. Yeah, there's some players playing it. Neck is playing in it. Some other players are playing in it. Alyssa Thomas. But that doesn't mean that's a threat. It just means a chance for them to play overseas in something different other than going to Spain, to Russia, to China, to wherever else they may play overseas this year. And Stewie's thinking about her playing for Fenerbahce in the EuroLeague championship rounds. That's strange to me, just because like you could just add a player, like, oh, let's add a player to this. That'd be great. Like, yeah, we can add a superstar to a roster, which happens all the time. Her wife, Marta's from that area.
Yeah.
So a chance to go home to hang out with the in-laws and the family for a week on vacation. Yeah, I'll play a couple basketball games there too and get paid for it. I'd take that deal in a second. Why not? Why wouldn't you want to go and be part of that and play high-level basketball? So I don't think it was any sort of like, well, if the CBA doesn't work out, we're not going to have a chance to play. A chance to sort of have your cake and eat it too, so to speak, of going to see the in-laws, playing high-level basketball and getting paid to do it.
So the final one for me, now that the negotiations are all done and you guys can kind of relax and move on from the CBA negotiations, are you finally going to be happy to cover the season and to actually cover the teams actually playing basketball, finally?
Yes, I love basketball. I love covering it. I'm actually in the middle of the NCAA tournament right now, which is cut into my time with the WNBA CBA stuff. Unfortunately, before they start playing games, there's going to be the expansion draft, there's going to be the college draft, there's going to be the free agency. So it's not like I can just take the month of April off and do nothing till May 8th starts. Listen, selfishly, my birthday is May 8th. So if they messed that up and didn't play games to start the season on my birthday, I told both sides, don't screw this up for me. That's the birthday present I want, of having games that day. But I will be excited to actually be talking about what's going on the court as opposed to what's off the court. It was eye-opening. Listen, I mean, we joked about the stakeout. It was something new. It was fun, and it became something that was physically and mentally taxing on both people negotiating and the 4 of us that were out front watching it and reporting on it. It's something neat to do every couple of years. To be there when they announced it, that 3 o'clock in the morning on that Wednesday morning, was something I've never done before in my entire career, and that was pretty cool. Do I want to do that every year? I'll settle for every 6 or 7 years having to deal with that, not every year. I'd rather watch players do phenomenal things on the court than worry about how they're going to be actually playing with stuff off the court.
We concur, because now we can actually focus on the season and not have to worry about PR and CBA negotiations. But with that, though, Doug, where can people find the work and, more importantly, find you on social media if they want to find out some updates on everything going on with women's basketball for the AP?
Well, the AP, the website works, ap.org, social media on Twitter. I refuse to call it X because I'm old enough to think Twitter is what it was and always will be to me. Just Doug Feinberg's where you can find me easily enough. Most of my stuff appears there at some point, and that's where you can find me for if you're looking for me, that's where you can find me.
Doug, thanks for the time. We really appreciate all the knowledge and the expertise.
Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Doug. All righty, gang. Time to wrap up here on this Wednesday as we come out of the Doug Feinberg interview. Back alongside Nick Morgasen, Callan, McClurg, back with you folks here. Nick, as I said, though, at the top of the interview, though, man, two heavy hitters talking all things WNBA for this episode of PR today. And, man, very insightful stuff from both Jordan and Doug this week.
Yeah, that was incredible. By the way, I respect him more because he calls X Twitter. I'm just going to say that now. No, both were great. Jordan was great. Doug was a great add to this week's show because he was there camping outside the hotel. Okay? So we got a firsthand experience to really see what it was like covering. And by the way, this is a good lesson. That's why I asked the first question that I did at the top of the interview. Tell everybody who wants to be in this industry how hard it actually is you have to work so that you earn the job, you earn the views, you earn the recognition for the stuff that you do. You don't get it handed to you on a silver platter because you think you're better than everybody else. Okay? So I give them a lot of credit. They camped out for hours upon hours upon hours on end. I mean, the Domino's pizza joke was probably one of the funniest things ever, though.
It made me laugh just for the simple fact of literally, just literally for the simple fact of, like, I hear that all the time. You can find the best Mexican food around the street corner, for example, here in San Diego. Like, don't be going to Taco Bell like I do when I get home late from work. Like, you can literally go and get a California burrito somewhere else, for example.
So, and by the way, I can relate because I worked in the city. So I know I used to find pizza on every corner I worked when I was there. No, but he was spot on. He nailed it. Talking to all the players, being in and out of the boardrooms, literally popping champagne after they made their deal between the WNBA and the WNBPA. I don't know. What else stood out to you during that interview we did?
Honestly, I think just getting that firsthand perspective across the board, to be very frank.
He really nailed it. I mean, because they were going back and forth the whole time. And I find it interesting, though. The one thing that I might have pushed back on slightly was that it was a transformational deal, which I hear everybody using that word. I don't know if it was transformational. I think that's debatable. They got 20%. They originally were at 40%. Like he said, I think they conceded big time on the revenue percentage number. I think they should have gotten 25 at least.
Yeah, we both are in agreement with that.
And so, I mean, they wanted 30. Like, they went from 40 to 30. Still, the owners were not conceding. We heard Jordan say it. We heard Doug say it, that the league probably could not have handled 30%. I don't know if I buy that fully, because you heard Jordan say early in hour number one that the financial hurdles were hit for a revenue share with $8 million a revenue share. So they obviously were making money. So I don't buy the fact that if they were given more, that it would have bankrupted the WNBA.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think it was just a thing, just to save face.
But those were two great interviews. You will see them individually, and you will see the full show after it airs. You don't have to wait. It'll be fully available via replay on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. You want to check it out.
Yes.
Like and subscribe. Thank you to the over 200 people who are now in this room watching this show. Thank you. So let's move on, and let's talk about Ken Rosenthal versus the World Baseball Classic. What? So Ken Rosenthal has published a rebuttal to the idea that Team USA cared less about the World Baseball Classic. He argues the lack of passion narrative is a lazy trope that ignores the intensity shown by the actual roster. Is Rosenthal right to defend the players' intensity, or do the high-profile pitcher opt-outs continue to undermine the WBC's credibility as the best versus best event?
So in a way, we're kind of piggybacking off of last week, Nick, where we had talked at length a little bit regarding the point made by Big Cat from Barstool Sports, though, about Rosenthal being a jerk.
Which he walked back slightly now.
Which he did, in fact, walk back just ever so slightly over the course of the last 7 days. But, Nick, it went, though, to my point, though, last week about the very much garbage take, though, about Jurickson Profar and Fernando Tatis Jr. being smiling, dancing peacocks during the 2024 NLDS. But now, though, Nick, we have this issue, though, where, again, it's very much, Nick, this very stupid gatekeeping ordeal about this is how you play the game. You act like a professional. You don't do this. You don't do that. You don't, show your emotion. Yeah, you hit a walk-off homer, run the bases, touch home plate, go into the locker room, talk to the media, and then call it a day. Where, as I said, though, Nick, that the game has evolved, though, over the last, I'd say, decade, 20 years maybe, about guys having the flair for the dramatic, about showing off their emotions when they make a diving catch or they steal a base, they hit a home run, they hit a double, how every team has some weird hand gesture that they give towards the dugout to celebrate it, though. And I think, though, Nick, as I've said, though, all this gatekeeping around the game of baseball just has to finally stop. Who cares?
I mean, I brought this up to you after this story came out. Ken Rosenthal's on both sides when it comes to should the players be allowed to show their emotion or should they not be allowed to show their emotion? Because he got, like you said, he got on the Padres for being smiling, dancing peacocks after hitting home runs and walk-offs. And what was it? Tatis's grand slam, I think, that he critiqued, which makes no sense. And now he's saying that the players shouldn't be reacting with a ton of emotion. Ken, which one is it? Do you want them to have emotion? Do you not want them to have emotion? Pick one. I would respect you more if you picked one, okay? If you don't want them to show emotion, then just come out and say, I don't want emotion. Because I think that's where he's at this point. You obviously don't like when players are excited. Last time I checked, and one of my former co-hosts, a long time ago, on this network, said something that I think really is accurate for this conversation. These athletes are playing a children's game.
Let the kids play at one point was MLB's slogan a couple years ago was let the kids play.
But my point is these guys are getting paid to play a children's game. Okay? Are they allowed to be a little excited out there when they hit a grand slam, they hit a home run, they hit a walk-off? You notice every time when we see a walk-off home run, what happens every time at the end of the game? The full team comes out behind home plate. Now they leave them space because of what happened to Kendrys Morales of the Angels. But once they touch home plate, they either get dumped on with water or Gatorade, or they throw the gum.
Bubble gum at them. They rip their jersey off.
I mean, Jose Altuve might have words for you about ripping his jersey off, but that's a whole different issue. But my point is, so Ken, you don't like the fact that the players are excited? You don't like the fact that they're not just thinking about millions of dollars, like they're actually having fun because they won a game on a walk-off home run? Like, do you not like fun? Is that what you're telling us?
Pretty much.
I mean, it makes sense. When you're in the media, I guess you can't cover anything objectively, right? I mean,
yeah, and Nick, I hate that this is even a thing after the World Baseball Classic ended, though, because a certain writer doesn't like watching the DR celebrate or the Italians take espresso shots or it's this or that, and they applaud the Team USA's military approach to the game being stone-faced and marching in precise formation for pregame introductions, and how they didn't, really let the emotion slip out. Like, we're just, we're stone-faced individuals. Where I think, though, Nick, I think the problem that we're talking about here a little bit is how other writers, in a way, complained about the Padres not granting Mason Miller the chance to pitch in that game, unless it became a safe situation for Team USA. You're not going to have your best guy throw when you're behind the 8 ball, losing by a run or 2 runs, though, at that time. So that part
that's
I totally
any scenario, not just
that part I totally understood, though. But now, it's the Padres' fault for them not winning at all. What about
please.
this? Please, yeah. Tell that to Tarek Skubal, who called out after one day of work, though, and said, "Oh, I want to come back and just be in the dugout and just to be there for my teammates." Give me a break, dude.
I mean, I would say that's dedication, coming back when you're not even going to be pitching. I mean, you came back because he did pitch 1 game, so he was part of the team. But I don't get this.
He could have thrown 1 more game.
He could have. But my point is, why are reporters I don't even know if I can really call them reporters anymore, because they're not doing their job accurately, which is just giving you the game information rather than giving you their opinion. That's not
And
a
maybe
reporter's
stop
job.
injecting your opinion and your thoughts into your commentary. Maybe people will actually respect what you have to say.
Do you remember what I said to you after the fact, that if he writes for The Athletic, I guarantee you he's supposed to be writing factual information
You
in
would
those
think.
pieces. So I'll tell you right now, those opinions that are coming out, that's not a factual column piece.
Not at all.
If he's writing what he thinks, and I'm no journalist, so take my word for a grain of salt if you want, but like, I spoke to Zan about it on our show.
Yes.
And I said, this isn't journalism, right? It's like, no, like, he shouldn't be injecting his opinion into the story. If you're doing an op-ed piece, then yeah, do whatever you want. Even though I think op-eds are the lowest form of journalism, in my opinion.
I think sometimes they're borderline stupid.
Because op-eds are basically, it should just say at the top, here's my thoughts on this, this, and that. It shouldn't even, I hate the term op-ed. Let me just tell you that. Because they're forming it into a column for whatever journalistic column they're writing for. But it's not journalism. Ken should go write op-ed pieces, not factual journalism. Because he can't do it.
Case in point again, the 2024 NLDS Game 2.
Oh, actually, speaking of,
Thank you, Zan.
You should never insert yourself into the story. You should always be about the story. Agreed. This is what Zan and I talk about all the time. That don't insert yourself in the story. I took journalism classes as part of my media major. And they used to tell us all the time, if you're inserting yourself in the story, then the story's about you, not about the actual subject you're writing.
And the only time, if anyone follows the Mr. Small Market Substack, the only time I ever, mention myself is if I'm talking about something that happened to me in my playing career, or the recent story I put out involving, being dyslexic and, having a visual impairment where it made playing sports a bit difficult. And, my job is very much reading names and reading script. And, sometimes you might, hear me stumble quite a bit, but it's because my eyes and brain don't work well together.
I'm the
because
same way.
Impairments I've had since 4th grade, though. And that's the only time that you ever insert yourself, is that if you're talking about yourself. And in a story that's coming out, though, I think tomorrow in honor of Padres opening day, is about the uncertainty that you're feeling as a baseball fan, from my perspective, about, what's the proper way? Hard salary cap, spending floor, both, neither. Games moving off local TV, the RSN issues right now, that there's not much of a bright future for the game ahead, though.
All stuff we talked about, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all been talked about. Exactly.
It's journalism, and I don't know if Zan's going to disagree with me or not, but journalism, unfortunately, has taken a bad turn. Not because of the people, because there are still, like Zan, who work really hard on their journalism when writing for all these different sites. But there's a lot of shortcuts that are taken in journalism now, whether that's AI, whether that's just taking unfortunate shortcuts for views and clicks, rather than writing because you're trying to tell a story, which is what journalism is supposed to be. You're telling the story of a team, a person, an individual, a historical moment in sports. It's not, how do I make someone look like an asshole so I gain more views from my name?
Case in point about that Game 2 Padre victory. It wasn't about the fact they hit 6 home runs. It was about, Jurickson Profars from Curacao, Tatis from the DR, and this is how they played the game. How stupid is that they dance if they hit a home run?
But who cares how they react when they're hitting the home run?
Could you imagine, Nick, an NFL writer going down this rabbit hole about every time a guy scores a touchdown and he does some sort of celebration?
I mean, it happens, but not like that. Zan with a little more lengthy response here. There are tons of people who get credentialed that don't deserve it. I agree. Totally.
100%. Bullseye.
And then there are other people who work their asses off for years and never get a I think he meant never get a shot. I then just started being more persistent. Zan works really hard for credentials. Okay, I've seen it. Him and I have worked together on stuff so that we can put some stuff out. I mean, heck, the video clip of him at, I think it was UFC 319. I think that he was credentialed because it was in Chicago. And we got a viral moment of Zan asking Dana White a question. Now, the reason I say it's viral is not necessarily because of the views. It just got seen by a lot of people. But again, people are nasty in the comments because they're jealous of the fact that their stuff is not out there. But we worked really hard to put that video content together so it was shown the right way. We didn't clickbait it. We didn't do any of that nonsense that some people we know have done. We literally built it so that it was a quality piece of content, unlike some people who just try to make a clickbait opinion or a hot take. Hello, Stephen A. First Take. Which, we got to get to that before the show ends, by the way. But you got to do things the right way. If you don't do things the right way, it's going to come back to bite you at some point.
Exactly.
So just keep that in mind, that don't take the Ken Rosenthal approach where basically you're just going to say whatever you feel like when you're not supposed to.
Don't inject yourself into a story about a game that you weren't even playing in. With that in mind, Nick, we're about 4 hours away from the opening pitch of the 2026 Major League Baseball season as your beloved Yankees take on the Giants today to rekindle some New York rivalries of the past. But of course, Nick has already said he will not watch the game due to the fact it's on Netflix, including the fact that Netflix is bringing in a cast of characters, including former Giants quarterback Jameis Winston and Jimmy and Jay Uso from WWE for tonight's broadcast as part of an ongoing Manning cast-style entertainment broadcast for the debut of MLB on Netflix. Nick, is Netflix successfully eventicizing baseball for a younger demographic, or does the inclusion of NFL and WWE superstars distract from the purity of what opening day should really be?
That's my thoughts on Netflix's opening night. Major League Baseball should not be on a streaming service on opening night. Sorry, shouldn't. Opening day, opening night, whatever you want to call it. First of all, this is the first time Major League Baseball's ever had an exclusive opening night, right?
It feels that way. They may have done it one year. I feel like when the Padres played the Dodgers on ESPN to open up a season, then we had
that was on TV, though.
But it was on TV, but nothing like this, though, ever, because of the new deals in place with the media rights for the season.
It's so ridiculous. Like, I want to see the S Network, which is my local affiliation in New York. And, it says, you could sync the radio to the TV if you pause and rewind it. I know, but that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And the thing is, the radio never matches. Even if you get it somewhat perfect, it's not going to be the same. My point is, Zan, that I want to see the Yankees on the S Network on opening day. I want my local broadcasting team. I don't want to see Matt Vescursion. I don't want to see the Uso brothers. I don't want to see Bert Kreischer. I don't want to see all this nonsense. It's not a sporting event anymore, what Netflix is doing. It's a clown show. Literally.
Wait, what? You said it's a what?
Clown show! Clown show! Clown show! Clown show!
It is. Tell me where I have misspoken so far.
No, I mean, if anything, this is a glorified Manning cast, as I said. Like, this could be an alt thing, like an alt broadcast, not the actual first game of the season with the most amount of consequences for the future and health of Major League Baseball. That you can't be pulling crap like this for the first game on Netflix. I mean, if you had a secondary broadcast with all this other gibberish and circus acts, then yes. But the first game needs to be a pure, regular done broadcast. I don't care what platform it's on, who's calling the game. It needs to be its own separate entity. If you want to have all the gimmicks, though, with, Jimmy and Jay, who are from the Bay Area, and, the comedian who I've never heard of, and then Jameis Winston, put that on a secondary feed on Netflix, but not the actual one, for heaven's sakes. Give me a break.
I'm just trying to look up for purposes the TV schedule, just to kind of have an idea.
Nick, we heard from First Take that Mad Dog Russo even confirmed that the Mets aren't even going to be on SNY tomorrow when they play on NBC and Peacock versus Paul Skeens and the Pirates.
You know what's even more pathetic? So the Yankees-Giants series, they're playing 3 games. I thought it was supposed to be 2 games when you play interleague.
No, it's always 3. It's a minimum of 3, unless you're playing your interleague rival.
So the game tonight on Netflix. Friday's game is on the Yes Network locally. But then Saturday's game is on Fox.
Are they at the 7:15 Eastern window?
Yeah. So one game for opening series for the Yankees is local.
And I think the Mets might be in the same predicament too, I want to say, but I might be wrong.
I mean, I'll look that up too. But how bad is that for the local fan?
It's terrible, especially when it's on Netflix. Like, again, Nick, we talked before the show went on the air. And yes, I get the fact that we can say, well, hey, welcome to 2026, fellas. Get with the times here, get with the program about Netflix.
Bullshit.
I call Cal maneuver as well on this one as well. Because, again, who out there in New York or San Francisco maybe doesn't have the money to afford to pay for the streaming services of Netflix or Peacock or HBO Max or Prime Video? Now, if you're a sports fan, you've had to obviously go down this rabbit hole, though. I think, Nick, we said it'll cost a fan like $1,600 to watch NFL games because of the cable package and then plus all the other, bells and whistles you have to have, though. I mean, as if baseball, Nick, was already behind the 8 ball. As I was already mentioning, though, again, we're entering a year, though, that might be full of consequences. Whether or not the Dodgers win it all for a third year in a row, Nick, there's going to be harsh consequences that we're all going to face, though, as baseball fans coming up once December the 1st hits, though, where it's going to be either a whole season gets wiped out or whatever it's going to be, though, Nick. I just don't understand, though, that I get you're trying to make a splash with Netflix because you're leveraging the NFL, who you have a rights deal with. You're leveraging Monday Night Raw with Jay and Jimmy Uso because they both, I get like the crossover. This isn't the time, not for your major league debut of all these gimmicks going on within the broadcast booth.
It's opening freaking weekend for Major League Baseball. And you're pulling out a circus clown show to show off opening day?
Clown show! Clown show! Clown show! Clown show!
But how ridiculous. And don't give me the nonsense that, well, at least they got CC Sabathia and Barry Bonds in the booth. Who asked for CC Sabathia and Barry Bonds in the booth?
Let alone Bonds with how he left the game, though, because of him getting blackballed by everybody for steroids.
And don't get me wrong, CC Sabathia is a very entertaining guy. Like
Hall of Fame bound this summer.
Hall of Fame legend, pitched with the Yankees, incredible career. It has nothing to do with his playing. Great guy. But I hate what Major League Baseball is doing now, which is going to this, let's get a guy from each team next to the play-by-play. You realize there's no chemistry there every game, right?
Yeah, that's an NBC ordeal. And also today, Nick, that there was reports confirmed by AA about them using Adam Ottavino and Clayton Kershaw to do a similar Robbie Hummel, Austin Rivers kind of commentary called Inside the Pitch, where I think Benetti would ask one of them about, if in this certain situation of the game, if you're a pitcher, what are you doing here with your next delivery? Like, we're getting away from the basics of calling a sporting event by getting way too far in the weeds, way too far into the forest about oversimplifying the game of baseball for viewers out there on television.
Whatever happened to a simple play-by-play color analyst and whoever the
sideline reporter is?
The sideline reporter is. What happened to the simplicity? You know, they say sometimes simple is better.
Yeah. Less is more.
Less is more. This is getting complicated now. Like, oh, well, we have to do everything to entertain the audience. No, you don't. Show the game
I was going to say, you know who's entertaining us is the guy on the mound, the 9 players in the field, and the guy at the batter, and the guy in the batter's box, not you clowns in the damn press box.
And what the fuck is Bert Kreischer? I know you don't know who he is, but he is a big time comedian. Like, what does that add to the broadcast? What does it add?
A
Nothing.
guy without a shirt on talking about baseball.
But who gives a fuck? And by the way, I can't open this story because it's an athletic story, but Marchand put out you need 5 subscriptions, 10 networks to watch your team in 2026. What? 5 subscriptions. That was never the case in baseball.
Nope. And as Zan said, his Cubs are on locally. Padres are on locally this weekend.
I looked up the Mets because you asked. So after the first game, their next 2 games are on SNY. So the Yankees are the ones getting fucked over.
I get it. Biggest team in town, 27 rings. I get it. But come on now.
You want to know why they probably didn't put the Saturday game national? Well, first of all, it's the Pirates. That probably has something to do with it. But the Saturday game is their 1986 World Series championship replica ring night.
And I'm sure they'll have the team out there because it's, 40 years now since they last won the World Series?
Yeah. So if it was a bigger team, maybe they would have had a secondary national game.
Also wonder, though, if there's a pregame ceremony to honor the 86 club, national TV wouldn't show it. So have the game on local TV to show it. Exactly.
But that's the patheticness. You and I were going through how they determine the national games. They're now doing, Saturday games on Fox?
Which has been a thing for a while, but I think, though, it's regional coverage because they're in the same time slot, but I think it depends on where you live about what game you get.
But that's still confusing.
Yes.
Who the hell does that?
Only Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball's going down the shitter, if you ask me.
That's why, again, Nick, I asked you before the year began, how do you feel as a baseball fan? That your team plays in 3 hours. You've already publicly said you're not going to watch the game. You might listen on the radio, but you're not going to watch the game on television. But in the long haul, how do you go about the game this year? Do you go to the stadium? Do you go to any games? Do you watch on TV? Do you not watch on TV? Or you just finally say, I've had enough of all the crap with this sport that I'm not going to watch this year until they figure this crap out in 3 years.
Well, here's the other issue. YouTube TV doesn't carry the S network.
Great.
So now I have that issue. So I would have to go purchase that convoluted app, whatever is it called? What is that app?
Sports.
Which you really think I want to pay that money? No.
Even with them dropping the prices.
Zan says I'll go to a few games because my friends enjoy going to baseball games. But that, again, you're not going to a baseball game unless you're going with a group of people.
Sometimes I'll go by myself if I feel like it.
Okay, but I'm talking about in bigger percentage of it. You're going with a friend. You're going
at
with
least
a group.
2 usually, yeah. If not a small group, what have you.
Baseball is kind of awkward sometimes when you watch alone too. It depends.
I mean, yeah, having broadcasted, all that, I can, get myself lost in the game when it comes to watching and whatnot. I mean, if you're going there to be social, like I usually do with, my friends and whatnot, I won't get to opening day tomorrow. Maybe I'll go Friday night when the Pods play the Tigers. But I mean, especially here again with the uncertainty about, the franchise being sold, could the team move out of San Diego by 2035? Who really knows because of where things are at right now with the sale of the franchise. But, especially though, Nick, when the team is as good as they've gotten finally over these last 6 to 8 years, and now it's the hot ticket in town, though, where I think the weekend's probably sold out for the Tigers. That obviously I want to go to Petco. It's been baseball's been a part of my life for almost 32 years. It would feel wrong not to go to at least one game or go to games still because you want to watch the guys play and see what they can do, though. But also it feels like a little bit, though, you might feel guilty because you're also putting money in the pockets of the owners who are trying their best to stop next season.
I don't know. It's becoming harder and harder to watch baseball now because of all the deals that are made. And I'm not watching. I have Netflix. Let me put that out there as a precursor. Okay. But it's annoying to put on an event like on Prime, Thursday Night Football, Netflix, opening day. I don't want to turn my TV away because then I have to stay in there to watch the whole thing.
Correct.
You know, the person, whoever develops the technology where you could flip between being inside
Games,
of a stream. No, I'm talking about being inside a streaming app, like to put it in your channel, whatever thing.
Oh, like the good old days of playback TV.
Yeah, well, but there might be a story on that sooner or later. But whoever could figure out how to put the streaming services into a channel flipper will make a lot of money. I'm just going to say that now. Make a shitload of money. Do we have time for one more quick story, or are we out of time?
We're kind of against the clock, though, but what I got here?
Well, can we talk Stephen A. versus Fatso?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Was that even a banner in the show, or no?
No. Did not make the cut today.
Oh, man. All right, we'll do it quick. You and I were having a ball listening to Stephen A. versus Jason Whitlock, or Fatlock. Because, yes, Stephen A. Smith smoked him. Yes. And the GoFundMe was hilarious. You and I were laughing away like crazy. I mean, can we just admit Jason Whitlock is the biggest troll of all time?
And not in a good way either.
No, of course not. Like, and I get it. Like, and I thought Stephen A. made a really good point that if you notice, he only talks about him because his numbers are up higher when that happens. Throwing the money on the floor was hilarious. Quick thoughts. What did you think of that whole thing?
Don't poke the bear when you know that Stephen A. is going to respond. Simple as that.
I mean, Stephen A. will beat the you-know-what out of Jason Whitlock every time.
I mean, could I honestly say I would pay for Stephen A. to, like, totally do what he did to Whitlock against me just for, like, the entertainment value?
Oh, we could go viral off that moment alone, probably.
That'd be amazing.
But, I don't know. Jason Whitlock's an idiot.
Crazy stuff. I mean, but I thought he did a great job, though. I mean, he had a couple of outbursts, but I thought he did a good job, though, composing himself, though, through that whole entire monologue he gave, though.
Because he's a raw pain in the ass.
There you go. But crazy, man. All right, we got to get out of here.
We got press clippings, though, real quick, though, Nick. We do.
All right, quick.
All right, Nick. Let's go. Let's start though up in the Great White North of Canada. TSN sparked massive fan outrage by cutting away from the high stakes ending of UNC VCU to finish off showing curling, only in Canada.
Oh, Canada, you dumbass. Or better yet,
Dumbass.
You couldn't let the game finish. Curling is so that important to you?
I think it's
Really?
like sport number 3 in Canada, but still, it makes no sense to cut away from a great game of VCU and UNC.
I don't know anymore, man. Just F you. That's all I have to say about that.
Nick, speaking of the Mets, legendary Mets radio announcer, the one and only Howie Rose, confirms he will be retiring at the end of this season. What a career for Mr. Rose, man. Holy cow.
Good man, 40 years plus calling the Mets on the radio. I think he also did Rangers hockey. I think
I feel like he did at one point, yes.
So incredible man. Even as a Yankee fan, I could say he's an incredible broadcaster.
Just turned 72, by the way, last month, for those wondering.
Not much more I can really say, though, but legend in the game, retiring, going out on his own term. So,
Zan says, apparently TSN cutting away is nothing new. They used to do it all the time when they had UFC fights, too, to show other sports.
Doesn't mean they should do
then
it.
Why air it, then, if you're going to cut away before the best part?
I mean, what was it? Like 2.3 seconds were left in the game? Like,
yeah. Come on now, people.
God.
Nick, as we do approach opening day here, the Weather Channel apparently called out Major League Baseball for its too early start to the season by claiming that Major League Baseball's March start is happening too early, citing dangerous cold weather patterns for pitchers and, of course, ballpark attendance in certain markets.
Oh, God. Really? Really?
Now the Weather Channel is getting involved.
It is too early. I agree it's too early. Because in New York, like we talked about weather and soccer.
Yes.
Think
Baseball,
about,
it's worse.
yeah, I mean, baseball in New York. Do you remember like we had the game against, well, this is going back historically when the Yankees played at the old Yankee Stadium against Minnesota, it was snowing during the
Yes.
game. Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful with that stuff, man. Like fans are not going to be able to sit through the games if it's too cold. Warm is different. Cold is not good.
Not at all, especially in those markets, though. And I've played through some cold weather before for baseball. It ain't fun when you get hit by a pitcher, you foul a ball off your leg, or you foul it, or you hit a ball right off your fists. It hurts like hell.
Yeah, really. It doesn't feel good. Why do you think you see them going like this, and then you get the pitchers talking to the umpire saying, "Am I allowed to
do this or do that?"
The blow on their hand because of the condensation stuff, even though they get in trouble for that when they don't ask.
Oh, of course.
But this is dumb. Just weather people stay out of it.
With that, Nick, last one, though. Adam Lefko, your boy, has now gone viral again for refusing to read Magic Johnson's massive multi-paragraph post on Twitter during a national broadcast and called Johnson's commentary, quote-unquote, a novel.
I don't know if it's that, again, I don't know if it's that he refused to read it. I think that he read it and then he clowned it. And I was like, dude, like, enough. Like, all you do is clown. Remember he got called out for the comment he made that their football coverage was better than ESPN's?
Yes, I do.
Come on, man, stop. Like, just stop it already. Like, you know what you sound like?
Clown show, clown show, clown show, clown show.
Adam, you bring nothing to the broadcast besides everyone laughing at you. That's it. And Charles Barkley is way better than you. He gets laughed at, but at least he's quality content.
Unbelievable.
Just saying.
Anyway, what a show. Holy cow.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody that was on the show. Doug Feinberg, Jordan as well. Her new book coming out also. What's the name of her new book again?
Court Queens. Go and check it out and make sure you buy it.
Yeah. Go buy it. I did hear about the book. It's a great historical look at women's basketball. So go check that out. Check out her, what is it? The Women's Hoops Show.
Women's Hoops Show on Odyssey and on your podcast app. Yes.
And then her and Cheryl Swoops. Amazing combination.
What a tag team. Unbelievable.
Next show, is that April Fool's Day? Oh, God. Shenanigans.
Clown show, clown show, clown show, clown show.
We might have to do the whole show in reverse.
Oh, okay, Tony Reale.
Tom, we tried to do that with a show. It just didn't work. It was really hard. It's not easy. That's like a whole editing
We're just going to be playing sound effects the whole entire show.
I don't know. We'll figure something out. Make sure you check us out. Social media, Press Row, ETB across all social media platforms. Our next show is April 1st, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific, at Press Row ETB across all social media platforms. Follow the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network to find out everything that we're doing across this network. YouTube.com/ETB Network. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Smash it. Hit it 10 million times. That way we know you're there.
Douche. Wait, SpongeBob, we're not cavemen. We have technology.
We got science. But that'll do it for the show. Doug, Jordan, thank you. Doug said he would come back on the show in the future.
Yes.
And I think Jordan would come back on too.
I'm sure she will.
We could talk some actual basketball
Yes.
next time that doesn't involve CBA bullshit.
Exactly.
But for Callan McClurg, I'm Nick Morgasen. The show is done. Finito. Coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern, Unnecessary Wagers. Nick DiMartino across the Empty the Bench Network, getting you ready for Sweet 16 games and making the unnecessary wagers that no one else will make. So
Screw you, Kelshi, Polymarket, and Novig.
Exactly. So for Callan, I'm Nick. Have a good day, everybody. We will see you same time, same place
on April Fool's Day.
Oh, boy. We'll see you then.
Until then, have a good day, everybody. We'll see you then.